Good afternoon, one and all, and welcome to the first of a series of personal and professional development by the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica, Surrey County. Now, this is the first in a series. I'm with you. I'm Sondre Roden. I think Skeka says she's not hearing anything. Are you hearing me now? Yes, no. Okay, so welcome to the first in the series. Today is August 17, 2020, and this is a youth development seminar series, and we'd want to welcome you officially to the first. So we'll have many days coming after, and if you would have registered with the link, you'd have seen the different days. I'm Sondre Roden. I'll be moderating today's session. So that's your official welcome to the sessions that we'll be having over the time. And today we have a lot lined up for you, a lot of different guests to speak on different issues about your personal and professional development as young people. But before we get into the different seminars and the different speakers, we're going to have a musical item. We're going to have a rendition from Miss Delicia Gale. Miss Delicia Gale is very talented, and she's going to share with us in her musical talent as we begin our seminar. I think your mic is muted, Delicia.
Good afternoon. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so I'll be doing a song. What the world needs now is love. I hope you enjoy. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there is just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another mountain. They are mountains and hillsides enough to climb. They are oceans and rivers enough to cross, enough to last till the end of time. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there is just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Lord, we don't need another meadows. There are cornfields and wheat fields enough to grow. There are sunbeams and moonbeams enough to shine. Oh, listen, if you want to know what the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there is just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day.
Wow, thanks, Delicia. Gail, that was indeed a beautiful rendition. I wish I had a voice like that, but not all of us have those talents. So we have to start us off, we're going to have a special presenter. I actually know this presenter, but I won't be the one that will be introducing him. We'll have Marlene Campbell, youth parliamentarian from St. Thomas, to do the introduction, from Western St. Thomas, to do the introduction for this special presenter. I turn over to you, Marlene.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marlene Campbell, and I'll be introducing to you today our first guest speaker, Mr. Joel Nondarkham. So Joel is recognized as a creative and eccentric youth leader who promotes the need for persons to live the best version of themselves. With over 5 years in marketing and communication, he bridges the gap between corporate marketing and personal brand building. Kicking off his early year, Kicking off his early days in marketing as an intern, he now works as a regional digital marketing specialist. Joel specializes in social media marketing with a heavy focus on strategy, analytics, campaign development, and creation direction. The Muse spent over 2 years as a television presenter, putting his journalistic skills to use and adding a different face to broadcast in Jamaica. He is also an avid youth advocate, having spent much of his life in leadership roles and involved in volunteer projects, and has been recognized countless times for this work. Let us welcome Mr. Joel as he presents to us on his topic.
Thank you so much for that intro. Hope I am audible and that everything is good. So if you guys can hear me, you can just drop some thumbs up in the comment section. We're going to make this presentation very interactive as well. So, I don't want to shy people on the call. First of all, thank you guys so much for the invite to present. It's very interesting because I was also a part of the National Youth Parliament I think it was 2016 or 2017, one of them. So it was actually really cool getting invited to come and speak to you guys about unlocking your personal brand and thing. I think it's very critical, especially during this time, for everybody to have somewhat of an idea as to what they want to do with their personal brand, how you want to branch out, where you want to go, what do you want people to think of you, what's the brand message that you want to kind of carry on for a moment. So it's very, very important that you have organized a session as such for us to do that. I'm going to walk you guys through 4 questions that were posted to me to present. And honestly, I kind of really want to get through them so you can ask me questions that you want to ask. This is pretty much like a guiding kind of vibe. And then really and truly, I'm more interested in what you have to ask me. So allow me to share my screen so I can get through this. I think I might be disabled to share my screen. Okay, I think I can do it now. And then just, when you're ready for your questions, let me just pose your questions to me. First things first, everybody see my screen? I hope my screen can be seen now. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right. So, unlocking your personal brand. First of all, before I even get into that, you guys have to know a little bit more about me. My name is Joel Numdarkram. I'm a marketer, a journalist, somewhat regarded as a digital marketing nerd because of the years of experience I have in social media and some magic that I have worked for my company. I work with Yellow Media Group. You would have heard in the introduction that I started out as an intern, and 4 roles later, I'm still there. Um, some people ask me sometimes, why is it that you're at a company for so long? I think it's because of the growth that I was able to achieve. I do also understand the terminologies of what experiential marketing is as well. So I've done events, I've done the promotions, I've done all of them stuff there. Pretty much just branching out now in digital, where I'm doing more social, digital display, Google ads, that kind of thing. Expanding the horizon. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay in marketing, but right now, as a 26-year-old professional, it's actually a very interesting industry to be in, and especially with COVID-19, being pushed to revolutionize how your marketing approach is done, very critical for me, and I'm super grateful that I was able to turn around so many different things. So yeah, that's about me. Let us just head straight into the meat of the matter now. Now, for the presentation guide, I'm going to walk you through 4 steps as mentioned earlier. So how can youth, effectively build their personal brand? That's one. The next one is, why is personal branding important for young people? The third thing is, how has COVID-19 impacted personal branding? And of course, we're going to close off with, how can young people leverage this digital age to craft noteworthy personal brands? Now, how can youth effectively build their personal brand? Now, this is something that a lot of times I have to sit down with young people and talk about, because every time people hear about branding, it's as if you want to align that to a company or an organization or an entity. And personal brand is so important and critical for just about everybody, because some people believe that personal brand really has to be, you have to have a certain presence in society, you have to be a celebrity, you have to have a great following for you to then craft a personal brand. Well, I'm here to debunk all of those myths. A personal brand is pretty much you in a nutshell, and how best you position yourself, what you want to be known for, what it is that you align with, what are your goals, your aspiration, your objectives, how do you translate that, whether it is that you have a presence on social media, whether it is that you don't have a presence on social media, because there are people with personal brand who do have a presence on social media as well. How it is that the idea around how you want people to think of you and how you operate as an individual, and everything kind of morphs into effectively building your personal brand. And this is something that every single young person should be tapping into, because the more and more you grow into your career and you grow into your different field of expertise, it's going to be critical to know exactly what you stand for. And if you can start building that legacy from very early, it allows for a smoother transition of what it is that you are representing. You don't come across as phony, you don't come across as not being able to be trusted. But when you start laying a foundation from a very tender age, you not only gain an understanding and insight into that specific arena that you want to build some sort of presence and authenticity around, but you also get an opportunity to become respected by older people, because them actually understand and see, say, you are about something and you are representing something. So let us kick it off with this aspect of it. Now, a lot of times we don't even understand how interesting and big this digital world is that we operate in. And just to share some stats with you, I love to share stats before getting into the meat of the matter. There is currently 4.57 billion internet users. So you as a single individual have such a great opportunity of pool of people around the world that you can showcase your personal brand to. We see people do this every day. We see people start out not being known, but because of the push of social media, the push of different avenues and arenas, somebody might just catapult overnight into an overnight celebrity or whatever we call it. But you literally have access to this number of people who you can potentially reach. Not saying you're gonna reach all 4.57 billion, but just putting this out there to tell you that you need to really think about expanding beyond just Jamaica if you want to start building a personal brand. Out of the 4.57 billion internet users, we have almost 4 billion of them being active social media users. Again, very interesting, data to look into. And of course, because most people have a lot of people have 2, 3 phones, one mobile phone, you have 5.1 billion unique mobile users. What this is pretty much telling you is how connected this world is and how you literally have the world at your fingertip. And sometimes you have to get out of this tunnel visioned approach if it is that you want to initiate change or build a personal brand. Don't just think about your community. Don't just think about your parish. Don't just think about your country. Think about the world sometimes, because you never ever know where your personal brand might land you. All right. Now, with this social media thing, there's a plethora of different networks that you can literally tap into to fully immerse yourself into branding. We have the Twitter, we have the Facebook, we have the Pinterest, we have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, new one on the block, we have LinkedIn. And all of these provide an opportunity for you to amplify your voice and amplify your personal brand. It's critical, of course, to do further research to find out, okay, then what exactly it is that you want to do as an individual and which platform works best for you. So speaking from experience, in my younger days between high school and probably the first year at university, I was an avid Instagram and Facebook user. Well, actually, I started high school heavily invested in Facebook. While I was head boy at Kingston College, you know, a lot of people, that's where I kind of started to build a base. So you have younger people from other schools, because I always in my purple blazer, you know, head boy, step out and all everything. They, you know, people normally see me and admire me and whatever. And they use me. Facebook was a means for me to kind of start building that, you know, sharing photos when I'm at conferences, presenting. When I was doing Peace for Champs, we have Peace for Champs devotion. So we normally, you know, travel to the different schools. And I started to build a brand through Facebook as a high schooler. So not only was I, you know, connected with peers, but I was also connected with the parents from school, adults who are also looking on, you know, to seeing the potential as a young man like me was really bringing to the forefront. And I think Facebook was really what kind of helped to amplify that. Moving into university, you know, Instagram became more interesting and important. So, you know, switch over to Instagram, same thing, tagging between Facebook and Instagram, until I realized that, you know, I need to start building my professional self. And that's when I started, you know, tapping into LinkedIn. So for me, I identified the different social media channels that were available, and I started to fit in my journey as an individual and building my personal brand to see, okay, then what exactly it is that I want to use these channels to do. And it's critical for you to do that as well. Sometimes we have multiple social media pages just eating away our lives. We're on social media every day, tweet, post, selfie. But when it comes down to positioning your personal brand, you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? And by the end of the day, you realize how consumed you are with social media as well. So this is a very important part of when you're crafting your brand. You have to figure out which channel works best for you, and you have to find a strategy. Now, the second thing is, why is personal branding important for young people? I mean, the most important thing is that you start to build and craft a career identity, so people can start seeing exactly what it is that you're about. So again, using my experience coming out of leadership, you know, going to university, doing my undergrad in journalism, I started to do the campus show called Campus Beats, as a means of trying to solidify what was to come, because I knew that I always wanted to be somebody in media, you know, a media professional, whether it is that I'm hosting an entertainment show or something, but I also wanted to do marketing as well. So in crafting my personal identity and personal brand, when it came on to the internship opportunities, I utilized that means to figure out how I'm going to shift a balance between journalism and marketing. The opportunity came up, I started hosting the campus web show to kind of gain experience and exposure. That also exposed me to students on campus who can say, oh, the boy that hosted the UE show, you know, and then, you know, eventually when I became somebody in media, it would have been, you know, a process. So people would have been able to say, oh yeah, man, him used to host campus show, but they expect him to kind of become a, you know, a television presenter or something. So building a personal brand really helps to start crafting your career identity, because people will realize the climb that you have done and made in order to achieve such. Your personal brand also separates you from a lot of others. At our age, a lot of people aren't focused heavily on building a personal brand, because right now young people are more caught up with certain things. I know I might be speaking to the converted, because these are representatives from the National Youth Parliament, and I'm sure you guys have some sort of degree as to what you are about and what you're representing. I know National Youth Parliament normally still at the cream of the crop. So might be speaking to the converted, but it really helps to separate you from others. at 20, at 19, at 18, at 24, at 23. You're supposed to at least know what you kind of want to segue into as an individual. And because a lot of persons are not focused on that at this age, you will come across as a little bit more matured and serious because you are, putting so much investment into building your personal brand. So you have, you're crafting a career identity. And of course, it really helps to separate you from others. And of course, you become more respected. People will realize the journey that you've been treading over a period of time. And as such, it's easier for them to warm up to you or support your movements. Again, case in point, I've been working in voluntary work from high school right up to now. And as such, because of that, people can reach out to me to be like, hey, Joel, I need your advice on this volunteer project that I'm launching. Hey, Joel, will you be able to spare 20 minutes to come and talk? Because at the end of the day, people would have been watching to see what you have been doing. And all of this, guys, really come down to how it is that you would have been building and crafting your personal brand. Now, with all of that said, points 1 and 2, here comes a pandemic. So a lot of people were in the middle of crafting the brand. A lot of persons have not started or weren't thinking about it. And now you have COVID. So how has COVID impacted personal branding? What COVID has done is that it has pushed everything on a digital platform, and this has created an immense opportunity for people to tap into it. So you realize that people are, one, dusting off them LinkedIn profile. You realize that people are finding more time because they are home to create content. You have a lot of people who are also, partnering, collaborating with other content creators. And what COVID-19 has done is that it has changed up the way in which you would have normally executed on this, for the better and for the worse. What COVID has done is that it has pinched a lot of us because we weren't thinking about any personal branding. But it's when the day, they realize you have some time on your hands, you realize that, boy, I never really had nothing. So it really has impacted a lot of people in a positive way because people now start to think about the image that they're crafting. The digital space is there and so many opportunities on the digital space. And if you can't stand out to seize those opportunities, then you would have faltered. And that is something significant that COVID-19 has done. It has also forced content creators, influencers to rethink what exactly it is that they're doing. So it's not a case where we could be on the ground, on the street, whether it is that a part of our personal brand is interacting and going on the street for box pops or whatever. You have to rethink your strategy and craft it so that you one, remain relevant, and two, you're still memorable because you still have to ensure that you maintain some sort of presence throughout whatever it is that was going on. So really and truly, in terms of COVID-19 impacting personal branding, I see a lot of positives coming out of this because even the other day I hosted a photo session for a lot of people, for a few persons who wanted to, improve their digital presence. And from communicating to a few of them, they've realized that, hey, now is that time for me to really amp up my digital game because I am now becoming a professional and I have to position myself properly. With COVID-19, job applications, if you don't have something steady that's working for you in a personal brand, there's a high possibility that you will not be considered for several things as well. So though COVID-19 is an unfortunate happening, it has also opened so many of us eyes to the reality of what digital is and how best to seize that opportunity. So we see several opportunities coming out of this, a few disappointments, but a lot of shaking up as a result of COVID-19 impacting your personal branding. Now, the fourth point is how can young people leverage this digital age to craft noteworthy personal brands? And I think this is the final point that I want to cover before I go into Q&A with you guys. So I hope you guys have been listening and following and have your questions ready. But this is perhaps super, super critical because everybody can build a personal brand. However, you will have some people who put a certain degree and work into crafting that personal brand, and you have others who are a cut above the rest, whether it is the way how they create the content, they craft the content, whether it is how they collaborate with others, whether it is how they're monetizing whatever it is that they're doing in the digital age to stand out and remain significant. And I mean, I have a few pointers in terms of how we can do that as young people. The first thing is to create 100% original content because this helps to build your brand identity. You have so many copycats out there. You have everybody doing the same thing. And we're not telling you to reinvent the wheel. What we're telling you is to be authentic and original about whatever it is that you're doing. I was talking to a few colleagues the other day, and we're talking about the fact that there is space for everybody, but it's really the twist that you come with. I'm sure there are several other corporate eccentrics out there, a lot of people in corporate who might have been building their personal brand or whatever. But for me, I have remained authentic to who I am. I like colorful pants. I wear colorful pants. You know, I guess I speak well, so I utilize that opportunity to always talk. You know, I created a website. People know me for being colorful, so my website is also very colorful. You know, I'm sure other people out there have colorful websites, but at the end of the day, people can still see my personality into what I am doing. So it's not like I'm replicating what other people are doing, but more so building my personal brand by now, reinventing the wheel. And I think this is something very, very, very important for you to look into. Do not, the comparison game and all of that comes down to this first point, because a lot of people feel like you have to copy what somebody else is doing in order to stand out. But people can see through, fake approaches quickly, and it's best to create, 100% original content all the time. You also have to think outside the box again. Everybody dep on TikTok, everybody dep on Snapchat, everybody dep on Instagram. I do the same thing, same music, same whatever. What though you want to do that as well, but how can you make that creative? You know, is it a case where you want to do a session, and because everybody at the Instagram live, you want to do something impactful? So you say, all right, then I'm not gonna use Instagram live, but I still want the audience of young people, so I'm going to do a Zoom session. That's something I had to do. As soon as COVID started, I started having conversations on Instagram live, and everybody did on Instagram live, and I had to move my conversation to Zoom and innovate and move or whatever, whatever. So sometimes you have to think outside the box as well. You also need to ask yourself if your message is about you or your community. Anytime you're building a personal brand, you're building a personal brand to, yes, position yourself as a thought leader, but you also want to ensure that you're resonating the message to what your audience want to hear. Hence, it's not about you all the time. What exactly it is you want to tell people so that they can become good advocates for your personal brand and relate to it and like it and admire it and aspire towards it. So you have to ask yourself the message, is it about you, or is it about the community that's following you? And also, it's important for you to become a trusted resource. Again, how do you separate yourself from the pack? You have to become more educated. I work in social media, and there's so many other social media marketers in Jamaica, but I had to take it a step further. I had to say, okay, then how do I separate myself from other social media marketers? I became probably the first Jamaican writer for Social Media Examiner, which is the largest social media resource in the world. And, that helped to catapult my presence. It helps to catapult my trust, because people can see that I'm now a part of a community of advanced thinkers who are doing something. So you also have to become a trusted source, and you can do this through getting training, getting certifications, and creating and crafting different movements for yourself as well. So in unlocking a personal brand, a lot of people will come to you. You will go on Google, you will search, you will do all sorts of something. But whenever I'm doing presentations like this, I have to just speak from my personal experience and try to see how best I can coerce you into understanding the fundamentals of it, so that you can become good, so you can build a really good personal brand for yourself, So, I just shared the top 4 points in terms of crafting a personal brand. I believe that's the end of my presentation now. If you guys want to check out more, my website is corpexcentric.me. Of course, again, Joel Mdarko, marketer, journalist, digital marketing nerd. And I just want to tell everybody, don't even look at your age. Don't ever limit your capabilities. It's important for you to just find out what exactly you want to do and move, go with the flow. No watch no face, build your brand, stand up for something. Don't position yourself as the main thing. Sometimes you have to be behind your personal brand as well, and just make something worthy. That time that you're spending on social, scrolling and watching other people's business, figure out how you can use the space to also craft something for yourself. And this is very important to note as young people. So guys, thank you so much again for allowing me to present. Not really into the long talk, and I really hope these nuggets connected. And now I think I'm going to turn over back to Sandra for Q&A. Yeah.
Right. It's back over to me for Q&A. That was 4 points, and I hope
Yes.
you guys were listening. I think at this point we can have our questions. Also, what I was told to tell you guys is that you can tweet at National Youth Parliament JA at them, at the things that you found interesting about the presentation by Joel. And we can take about 5 questions, so you
Yeah,
can raise your
sure.
hand and go in that order. I don't know. We can take about 5 questions, so you can raise your hand and go in that order. And I see we have about 44 people here live with us. So yeah. And I want to remind you, if you don't have Twitter, you can also comment what your nuggets are from this presentation under the picture of the development series on the National Youth Parliament JA page. And if you haven't followed the National Youth Parliament JA page, now is the best time to do that. So I am not seeing any raised hands right now.
I think
Guys,
I was clear. I think I was clear.
Is it that Joel was so concise, no questions? Or you can send it in the chat.
I think I see one just come in from Alia.
Okay,
yeah. Regarding creating an image for yourself, how to create a balance on personal and professional life. This is a question that I always get, and I just have to tell people all the time, you can't necessarily separate professional from personal, because that's when everything kind of gets complicated for you. I mean, I've seen people create different, like a public Instagram account versus a private Instagram account. I personally don't see the sense in that. Some people believe that people going fast in a business and whatever, but I just feel like whatever your brand is, that's your brand. If you have a reckless, if you want, I don't know, if you have, the only reason I see people doing something like that is if you have probably something raunchy going on in your personal life that you don't want anybody to know about. But if you're raunchy, you're just raunchy. Own up your raunchiness if you're raunchy. But don't think that people are not going to. That is when people are actually going to like dive deep into your personal business more, and start doing malicious things and everything along that line. But I don't know how best it works for people who try to separate personal from professional. I just think you're a person first, and as a virtue of being a person first, you have standards, you have values, you have ethics that you represent, that you speak to, that people can align you with. And I think once you have pretty much factored all of those in, then separating professional from personal, kind of in terms of image, because speaking of image is that's a different thing than in real life, because me and people work together professionally, but me and them are a friend. So me and not talk much. Me talk to you at work, but that's like professional and personal in a working environment. But in terms of your personal image, I think it's a little reaching when you try to do that because of probably your work somewhere, and when people are fasting business, you have an open Instagram, you have a private Instagram, you have a public Instagram. Persons who are I would say politicians do it where you have a different account and whatever, but that's public office. I wouldn't do that. You just represent what you represent, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of validity in a question like that, because I think some people still are kind of misunderstanding the fact that you are an individual first, and anything else that you do after that is really up to you. If you are not really into the public spotlight and stuff like that, then it's better for you, because you probably would have an interest to build a personal brand if you are somebody not looking forward to venturing into big publicity or anything along that line. So you can keep your stuff then private as usual. But if you do have intentions to become an entrepreneur, a politician, a well-respected person, an authority in whatever industry it is that you fall into, then I guess that is where we'll call now in terms of how do you separate the two. And I just don't think you should ever separate the two. But others have done it successfully, and some have failed at it. It's really up to you. But good question, Alia.
Good question, great answer.
Yeah. Most welcome, brother.
I see some other questions coming
Yeah.
in. Yes.
I see one from Paris, Mitchell.
Yes.
Bartol. Any tips for recreating your personal brand and representing yourself to the public as your new brand? Yeah, I think your brand will always roll over, move. You're going to test out different things. You're going to figure out what exactly you like. For me, I decided to. I mean, I love my name because it's very unique, but I decided to kind of marry eccentricity into what I do, because everything that I do is just different and against the norm. You know what I mean? And I just felt like, for even me, it took me a while, like probably a good 2 years, to figure out what exactly I want to do. There was at some point I created an Instagram to talk about social media specifically, and then I'm like, why am I separating this? I'm a one individual. I like fashion. I like social media. I like social issues. So why am I not going to separate everything into, like, when I create 3 different Instagram and 3 different Twitter? It never made no sense to me, because I had to come back to me being an individual. You know what I mean? And you will always have opportunities to rebrand. You have to refresh. You have to come up with new ideas. I don't believe in staying stale. If you have certain brand colors. So, for example, you guys would have realized throughout the presentation, I had a brand color that I was sticking to. You see the hot pink, and you see the interesting use of blue and the green and stuff. Last year I was using yellow. So, them little elements that will always change, and you will always be able to represent yourself and refresh. What you want to be careful of, though, there's going to need to come a point when you are representing, more importantly, what exactly you want people to resonate with. So if you're an attorney, if you're a medical doctor, if you're a singer, if you're a musician, whatever, an artist, then you have to ensure that you're not losing the essence of your brand resonance, even if you are presenting new material in a new format. So you have to be aware of that. I see a question as well from Maya. How do you build your personal brand when you're not exactly sure what career you want to choose or have multiple career interests? Again, there must be something that you are passionate about and you want to resonate with people. Again, you can bring all of that into one, and you can figure out how it is that you are going to release these different nuggets of interests up from you as a personal brand. So is it a case where you're going to have say you have Instagram and you like music, you like uh paint schools, and you also like teaching Bible class? How it is that you're going to curate your content so that you can capture all of those? That's where a lot of people struggle as well, and then you realize that they might create multiple social media accounts for them one body. So you can figure it out. You're going to probably post about, you probably have something called Music Mondays where you talk about, you drop a tune or something. Then you have a transformational Tuesday where you go paint one new school, and then Wednesday wisdom, you share one Bible verse. So you have to figure out how it is that you curate your content so that it still ties back into you as an individual and you as a brand. So that's what solves the issue concerning having so many different interests. You figure out how to curate those interests into one instead of feeling overwhelmed, like you need to neglect this, I need to focus on this. Think I'm going to take the final question. I see it from Shanae. How do you navigate in an environment like social media where persons are hypersensitive and judgmental about almost everything and all about the cancel culture? This is a good one and an excellent way to close off. You just have to know why you are using social media. It is very easy to allow the Twitter fingers and the Instagram fingers to take over your train of thoughts, but always ensure that you're sticking true to what you have. Sometimes you have to just scroll and move. Is that piece of content that you're about to interact with, which might provide some feedback, going to add some, it's a magically put 3 grand or 4 grand in their account? No, so I'm gonna answer that. You know what I mean? So you have to be steadfast. You have to be, you have to know what you're doing. You have to ensure that you're also not you have a lot of people who love controversy on the social media space. That's what they feed off of it. People go out of them way for likes and retweets, and it's such an unhealthy environment for a lot of people. But you as an individual have to ensure that you're steadfast. You have to ensure that you're respectful on the space as well, because you don't know who's watching. You don't know who you might be connecting with eventually down the line. So these are critical things that you have to take into consideration. But you have to ensure that you are using the space in such a way that it's not overwhelming you as well. You take your breaks from it. Everybody know me, if you take a quarterly break from social media every quarter, take a little 1 month off, leave the space, go and go do something. It's, the fear of missing out my kicking, but at the end of the day, is it adding, what value is it adding to you as an individual, So you have to just make sure so you don't get into no mix up, and certain opinions where you have, just share it with your friend them. Take up your phone, message your best friend and say, some things say, Juliet, you remember calling about the name. Some things that dub the way X released a while ago don't sound good. Me not like it. Text that to your friend. We are gonna post that on social media, then people are gonna come now. And sometimes we love the drama. My best advice to continue to build a personal brand of integrity is to avoid drama. Don't run to the space a lot of times to express how you feel about certain things, because it's not like it's add 10 grand to your account. So just think about those things before you make certain posts. I love those questions. Thank you again, guys, for having me here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joel, for joining us and sharing your expertise. Joel is very versed in this area. I want you guys to know that this young man has a master's. He's very brilliant and he's very experienced. But Joel says that it's not going to put 10 grand in your account, but if you tweet and at National Youth Parliament JA, there are prizes and surprises. I was told that there are prizes and surprises. And there's also a hashtag I want you guys to use. It's hashtag helping youth overcome. I'm going to repeat hashtag capital H helping, capital Y youth, capital O overcome. Tweet the things that you'd have learned from Joel's presentation. And now we're going to go into our second presentation. We're still sticking with these people who can communicate and do it so well. And we're going to have Andrew Folks introduce our next two speakers.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Say aye if you can.
Aye.
All right, great. So I have the honor in introducing, I'm Andrew Folks, and I have the honor in introducing Mr. Vashan Brown and Miss Janella Perseus, who will be our next speakers. Mr. Vashan Brown has almost 10 years of experience in the media industry and currently works as a senior reporter, producer, and news anchor at Television Jamaica, and is a member of the RJR Gleaner Communications Group. He's an award-winning journalist who served as the producer of TVJ's flagship current affairs program, All Angles, for 4 years. He also served as a director of the Press Association of Jamaica, the island's premier association dedicated to freedom of the press. In 2009, he completed a Master's of Science in Media, Communication, and Development at the London School of Economics and Political Science with distinction. And he is also a 2018-2019 Chevening Scholar. We are honored to have him here to share his knowledge and experience with us. Along with Vashan Brown, we also have the esteemed Janella Perseus. Janella Perseus is a multi-award-winning journalist and has been active in the media since 1997. She is St. Lucian by birth. Jamaica became her home after university, where she attended CARMAC and specialized in media and communication. She is a primetime news anchor, a 2018 CNN fellow, and a public speaking coach. When she is not working, she enjoys spending time with her family. Please welcome Mr. Vashan Brown and Miss Janella Perseus.
Okay, thank you very much. You'll hear from Janella a little later on. So we're speaking about effective communication, and I'll start by first addressing the issue of how youth can master effective communication in the professional world. So first of all, I want you to think about the fact that communication is something you do on a daily basis. You do it with your friends, you do it with your family, but that kind of communication, I think, should have some kind of differentiation from in the professional world. I've created this binary between friendship communication and communication in the professional world. But as Joel was arguing earlier on, there's a kind of merging of the two worlds in many instances. You have the personal meeting the professional, and where communication is concerned, I think you use skills that you use in your normal friendship conversations in the professional world. Like, for example, your charisma, your ability to persuade, those are things that you also use in the professional world, and those are useful tools to have. But the focus of this talk, though, is in the professional world. And I've created this acronym to help you in some ways to improve communication, and I call it CAT. So CAT stands for clarity, accuracy, and tone. So clarity is the first point. You want to ensure that whatever you're communicating is clear to not just you, but to the people you are addressing. It makes no sense you're communicating and you're the only one understanding what you're communicating. And so it's important that you have clarity. Now, I have a friend who did an interview the other day, well, some years ago actually, at the BBC, and he sat in front of the panel. He was asked the questions from the BBC World Service representatives, and he responded to those questions. But at the end of the day, when he received the feedback, he realized that one of the things he said in that interview, which was a big part of why he didn't get the job, was because he wasn't clear in what he was saying, and the way it came across wasn't the way he intended. And so clarity is important. And I would also argue that it could cost you very, very big opportunities, especially in an interview setting. So clarity is very, very important. So how do you get clarity? I think one of the ways you can get clarity in communicating is being informed. And I think this shows the importance of researching. So read up on whatever you need to read up on, but be informed. And so you're not contradicting yourself, and you're also not confusing your audience whenever you speak in professional settings. So clarity is very, very important. And it's important to give you consistency and ensure people are not confused. So CAT, the second part of CAT speaks about accuracy. So we've spoken about clarity. The second part is accuracy. In a media context, we speak a whole lot about the proliferation of fake news. We speak about inaccuracies being in the public domain and how that's a danger to democracy. And in the professional world, it's also important to ensure that the information that you put out is accurate and that people are not questioning your credibility and thereby undermining the substance of what you're trying to communicate. So it's important that you put out accurate information. This also refers to a point I made earlier on about the importance of research. To be able to communicate accurately, you also need to be armed with factual information, and you get that kind of information through the research that you need to do. And so whether you need to get sources, whether you need to be reading up a lot, you need to ensure that you're armed with the information. The third point in CAT speaks about tone. So we always hear Jamaicans say, it's not what you say, but how you say it. I think that's also important in the professional world. So we spoke earlier on about the importance of getting clarity. We spoke about the importance of having factual and accurate information. And now we're speaking about how do you deliver that information. So the tone is very important. I remember some years ago, or not so long ago, I did an interview with an organization, and I was being challenged so much. It was a high stakes opportunity. I'm sure a lot of people wanted it, but I was being challenged, and the interviewers were pressing, and it was difficult for me to hold my composure. And so I started responding like, but I said earlier on that what I said earlier, and I argued that I did say that. And one of the things I pointed to is, you'd realize in a professional space, the interviewers would be like, hold up, what's happening here? And so the tone is very, very important. Of course, upon reflection, I could have handled that interview differently, but I'm making that point to say it's important that you constantly and consistently think about the tone that you have when you deliver information, whether it's a speech, whether it's responding to questions in an interview, the tone is very, very important. So we spoke about CAT being clarity, accuracy, and the tone. So I want you to think about CAT whenever you go in a professional setting, whenever you deliver information to people. CAT is, I think, very, very important. It's one of the methods I use in speaking whenever I engage in a professional setting. So when you want to get clarity, I think you can set out bullet points. So you can say, okay, this is the first thing I want to speak about, clarity. The second thing I want to speak about is accuracy. The third thing I want to speak about is tone. And I think that kind of bulleting of information can also help you to get the kind of clarity and cohesion in your presentations in a professional setting. So before I bring in Janella to speak about some other aspects of effective communication, I want you to think about how our lives have changed because of this coronavirus pandemic. So I'm now communicating with you via Zoom online platform. So think about communicating in online versus in person and the similarities and the differences between those. In fact, this is my first Zoom presentation. Yes, believe it or not, I've actually never presented on Zoom. So there are some things that are different here than in a professional setting. So one of the first things that's different for me here is body language. I'm a person who communicates a whole lot with the hands. And you can imagine if I'm doing a Zoom presentation and I'm speaking like this, you can understand how quite distracting that might be. So I have to be keeping in mind the importance of, yes, keeping the hands down, because I do speak a whole lot with the hands. So watch the body language whenever you're communicating in an online space like this one. It's also important to think about the environment. So not have a distracting background. Maybe you can put up a fancy background like Joel had earlier on using the virtual capabilities of Zoom, or you can have one like the one I have, but not anything distracting to the audience. So body language, environment is also important, but also ensure that there's not much noise around whenever you're giving these kinds of presentations. So there's a video that was released some time ago with an individual. He had a meeting via Zoom with his colleagues, and he got up thinking that the camera was turned off. He was clothed at the top, but well, just at the top. And so his camera was on, he got up, and well, you can complete the rest of that story. So it's important that you're mindful of whether your camera is on whenever you're communicating in an online setting. You should also think about whether your microphone is on. You don't want to be saying things in meetings, in interviews that you didn't intend on making public. So you have to think about the camera, but also the positioning of the camera is also important. So ensure that the camera is not in a position that your audience can't see you properly, an angle where your head is not in the frame. So the positioning is also important. And finally, I also want to speak about whether you're sharing screen, because Zoom allows those kinds of capabilities. So if you're sharing screen, ensure that you would have closed those tabs that might be considered questionable and that you don't want anybody to see. So Janella will continue telling you more about effective communication, and she'll address the other points.
All right, thank you so much, Vashon. Now, I just want to say that some of the points that Vashon raised, they're very important. So I may repeat it, and it is only for reinforcement, because we can't stress enough body language. We can't stress enough relatability. But I want to start with a story. Now, very early in my career, I was assigned to cover a protest in downtown Kingston. Now, before that, I mainly covered government and business type stories. So my mode of dress at work was always business suit. So the editor sent me downtown. Now, it wasn't a place that I frequented, and that worked against me. Plus, I was at the time a foreigner. Yes, foreigner, because I'm from St. Lucia, guys. Okay. So anyway, so here I was, sun hot. I was burning up in my suit. Again, this was the first for me. Now, I made a few attempts to get an interview, but the people, they looked at me strange. One man, he eventually obliged. Now, I began the interview, Queen's English ton up, right? The man kept saying to me, what she a try to say? And that happened throughout the interview. Now, when I realized it was 5 minutes and I wasn't getting anywhere, the cameraman realized my dilemma. And he came to my rescue and he says, "No worries, JP, I got this." And he took over. Now, it was a teachable moment for me about time and place, as well as knowing your audience. Now, this obviously was an epic fail at effective communication. And it's a mistake that many people make because they do not take the time to know their audience. Somebody says to you, "I need you to address X, Y, and Z," but you don't ask questions. Who are these people? Where are they from? So it is important that you get to know your audience, and it will help you in terms of how you prepare and what you're going to say to those people. Now, additionally, Vash spoke about body language. I cannot stress that enough. Obviously, I come to a protest in my jacket suit. Nobody not gonna take me seriously, guys. What I should have done was what happened. I don't know if you guys remember when President Obama came here. Now, I remember. Now, first of all, I have to declare, in my opinion, he's like the greatest speaker of all times, right? I just love when he speaks. Whenever Barack Obama is speaking, I put whatever it is that I'm doing and I have to listen. Now, when he came to Jamaica, he went to speak to youth leaders like yourself at the University of the West Indies. Now, I watched admirably as he removed his jacket, he rolled up his sleeves, and in his opening sentence, he said, "Wagwan Jamaica," which takes me to my next point about effective communication and being relatable. The two work hand in hand. I mean, look at this big POTUS speaking the Jamaican dialect, which we are often told that we should not be doing this because, hey, you can't do this in a formal presentation. But here he was, Barack Obama, President of the United States, speaking to young leaders. What does he do? He tries to speak in young people language. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. So here are a few tips on relatability. If I think that one of the things that people love, people like people business. So storytelling is, in fact, no, I was going to say something else, but storytelling is one of those tools that you can use to be relatable. So youth parliament, and you are chosen to be the minister of roads. So you tell the story about when you drove on the highway. You tell the story about when you drove in one of these communities in Portland and what you experienced, even if you were not the driver, but you were a passenger. So people relate to stories. So this is one of the ways that you can be relatable. And finally, prepare. I cannot stress that enough. So you know who your audience are, right? And then now you prepare. So what do you do? In addition to making your research, I think that it is very important. You go before the camera, well, your phone camera, and you practice what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. You do it several times. You record yourself. You listen back. This actually helps when you are on the big day and you have to make your presentation. Now, a lot of people ask me about, what about being a good speaker? My only advice for that is to be yourself. You cannot be me, you cannot be Fashion, you cannot be Doreen Samuels, you cannot be Archibald. You can only be yourself. So the fakeness, especially when you work in television, for some reason, you can see when somebody is not genuine and you can see when somebody is not themselves. So I always advise people when it comes to being a good speaker, yes, you get professional help if you think that you're not as fluent or if that your tone or whatever is not up to scratch, but you have to be yourself. You cannot be anybody else. So I'm trying to do this very quickly, guys, because I have things to do and the work is piling up. So this is the end of my presentation. I hope you learned something. Any questions?
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Vashon Brown and Janella Persus. We will take questions now, guys. So either you can send them in the chat as you would have done. And I'm going to remind you to keep tweeting your favorite parts of the seminar on Twitter using the hashtag helping youth overcome. The hashtag helping youth overcome. But you can go ahead now with your questions, guys. You can send questions in the chat and or open your mic. Also, right now, we're going to read a few. We're going to read a few of the tweets actually after the questions. We're going to read a few of the tweets and we're going to select our favorite tweets for a prize. So you see that in the chat. We have a question from Alia Luna, question for Vashan regarding clarity. How does one ensure that things like language barriers are effectively overcome? Not sure if I'm getting that properly.
So by language barriers, I understand that to mean people speaking different languages.
That's what I think she's getting at.
Well, one of the easy ways people generally address clarity issues whenever there are people speaking different languages is to have an interpreter or a translator to ensure that clarity is maintained. But one of the things I found interesting when I studied in London, I had classmates who were from all over the world who spoke different languages she's adding something, language as well as dialects, all right, who spoke different languages, but English was that language that brought us together as a class. Like almost all my classmates, whether they spoke Arab, whether they spoke Spanish, French, the native African languages, they could all speak English. And so English was that language that brought us together. She also spoke about dialect. Janella made the point earlier on about there's nothing wrong with speaking dialect. There's nothing wrong with speaking Jamaican in professional settings. I mean, I personally don't think so. So I think you have to always know your audience and know the people you're speaking to, so you are able to relate to them on whatever level they are really in terms of language.
Fashion, if I can just pick up, which is
Sure.
why it is very important that people know their audience. I cannot stress it enough. Even when you're doing an interview, yes, you may not know who the interview panel, who that panel is, but you kind of need to know, you have to do your research. It is very important because that will either make or break your presentation.
And Janella, just to add one more thing, in our careers, we do speak and engage with people from a wide cross-section of Jamaica, not just people who speak language. I know there's a running debate about the fact that the media space is co-opted by political interests and business leaders, and we don't engage much with the common man, but we do speak with people who are not necessarily good English speakers, if I were to use that forensic phrase. We still have to be able to communicate with them in a way that they understand what we're saying, because I've done interviews before and I've asked the questions in English. I remember one year in particular, I did an interview on preparing for the new year. And I said, okay, what's your New Year's resolution? And the man turned to me and said, I mean, what do you mean? You need to explain what you want to ask me. And so I had to put it in a way so that he understood what I was asking, so he's in a position to be able to respond. Janelle, I see there's a question for you.
Oh, okay. Can you read it for me, Vash? Sandre, your mic is muted. But the question,
Okay.
let me see, it says, does the media environment allow much agency when mistakes are made? How do you master presentation when there's limited time for presentation? Well, listen, I know that Vashan can attest to it, and so can I. If I'm preparing to read the news, I have to prepare, and meaning that I not only read over the scripts way ahead of time, at least I try to do that as much as possible, but being in the know about certain things, it makes it much easier for you to ad-lib and think on your feet when something is going wrong. And what do you do when something is going wrong? I know that you guys probably saw that famous social media post that I was laughing. It was not supposed to have come out on air. This was behind the scenes, right? And I was not cued. So I came up laughing. So when I came up, people said, Janella, your comeback game strong, because guess what? I, at that time, knew that, hey, JP, this probably came out on air. What do you do? I could do one of two things: freeze on air or be professional about it, center myself, and continue reading the news. Now, mind you, at that moment, I was cussing holy bad word in my head because I could not believe that this was happening. Okay? But instead, I centered myself and I continued to read the news like a true professional, because I am a true professional. Now, it takes time and it takes practice, which is why, again, guys, you have to be in the know. You always have to prepare, 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 because in a live situation, anything can go wrong and you always have to prepare. So I don't think I understand clearly what you meant by agency. How do we talk about what environment allow much agency when mistakes are made? Yeah, everybody makes mistakes, but it's just, how you rise above these mistakes. you know I sometimes have many ideas to talk about a particular topic, the issues I'm stuck. When I try to express it clearly, Vash, you probably want to take this. It's about clarity.
Yeah. I saw that one earlier, and I was actually looking for uh, an essay topic that I had done when I was at school. So it was essentially a question that looked at alternative media versus mainstream media, the differences between them, an example from a democracy and fake news, and how that factors into alternative media versus community media. So you can understand that's a whole lot to talk about, right?
Mhm.
So one of the things my professor said when I was at school is you have to narrow down topics. There's several things you want to talk about. You just can't tackle them all. And you have to accept that. You have to accept that whenever you're going to speak about a matter, whenever you're going to write about them, there's tons of work on it. You can read tons of literature on it, and you have several things to argue, but you must narrow them down to the 2 or 3 things that you want to talk about so that you give them proper treatment. I think that is also applicable in this kind of scenario where you have several different topics and you want to narrow it down. Just think about the 2 things you want to talk about. Think about whether the 3 points you want to talk about are clarity, accuracy, and tone. Because I mean, where communication is concerned, you have several different things you can talk about, but you always, always have to narrow it down to something specific that you can elaborate on.
All right, so
All
Vashon, there's
right.
another question about facial expressions and gestures. Personally, I don't have a problem with gestures. Some people speak with their hands, and that is completely okay, because it goes back to my point about being yourself. So imagine you're used to speaking with your hands and you're talking to people and your hands are at your sides. It is just not natural. So if it is natural for you to use your hands to speak, use your hands to speak. And it is okay to do that, guys. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, because you are going to look awkward. Okay, now in terms of facial expressions, again, time and place. So let me take you to a new scenario. I cannot read a story about a death smiling. Again, time and place. I cannot read a happy story and I have a very serious face. Time and place. You cannot be speaking to young people about dancehall culture and you have a serious face. No, time and place. Again, get to know your audience, and that will determine facial expression. Facial expression you can also practice in the mirror. You can also practice using your phone. I encourage young people a lot. You have the smartphone, you are on the platforms, Instagram, Facebook. Use that medium to do Facebook lives. This actually helps in terms of how you express yourself, what you say, how you look, and then you make your assessment and make the tweaks where necessary. But again, I have to stress time and place. Bash, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah.
Not on that particular one. I do see another question though. Is there any effective communication resources available that any of you speakers would highly recommend? I can only speak about pronunciation of words. There are some words that you take for granted, and they're really Jamaican expressions and how Jamaicans say words. I remember one time I was doing a news presentation and Doreen Samuels came to me and said, okay, it's not planned. Like, do not say that on air ever again. I mean, that's my upbringing coming into the professional space. So one of the resources to help you with your pronunciation of words is the Oxford Pronunciation Dictionary, which is something that I use quite a lot before I go on air. Janella, that's one resource I know about.
All right. So there is a book that I am reading currently. It's called Talk Like TED. I can't remember the author, but it is on. I bought it on Amazon. Talk Like TED, and in that book, it looks at various situations, how you prepare to speak at various functions. It gives you like tidbits in terms of your preparation, in terms of how you stand. I mean, it's a whole lot of information there. It's called Talk Like TED. And I think what they do is that they use a lot of the TED Talks. I don't know if you guys are familiar with TED Talks series on YouTube, but there are a host of speakers there, and you have some really good, engaging speakers. And if it is that public speaking is your thing, I would encourage you to look at some of the TED Talks. And this book actually, it serves as like a Bible, so to speak, on effective public speaking. So this is one that I'm currently reading, Talk Like TED.
Wow, thank you guys so much. You know, we got about 5, 6 questions. Janella, Washawn, we really appreciate the presentation. And I think everybody that's here live here on Zoom and even on YouTube that we're streaming, you know, we would have learned a lot from the presentation. See, they're saying excellent, an excellent book.
It is,
And I
yeah,
want to remind you guys, she said, talk like TED,
like
TED.
TED.
Yeah, talk
And one
like
of the
TED.
things that I really like about this book is that the language is just very simple. So you don't have to read it 5, 7, 8 times. Very simple language, and you get it.
All right, thank you guys so much. That was our second presentation, guys, from Janella Pursues and Vashawn Brown. And I know you guys would have learned a lot. So we're going to continue to encourage you guys to keep tweeting and atting the Youth Parliament handle and hashtag help youth overcome. So we're going to read some of the comments that we have so far from the hashtag help youth overcome. I think they're going to try and put it up on the screen for me right here. So I'm going to wait on that. And I see, okay, here we go. All right, so from David Salmon, I see you guys see in the comments, prepare, prepare, prepare is a great motto to have at Janella Bella. Very engaging presentation at the NYPJ seminar series. Dana Atkinson says, I love how these presentations are concise and informative. Najee says, awesome presentation from Corp Eccentric, that's Joel Namdarkham, on personal branding, learned so much. And I want you to scroll a little for me so I can see who these are coming from. David again said, had a great session with Corp Eccentric. David also tweeted that he's very happy that Vashawn Brown, his first Zoom presentation was with the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica. Now, we're going to go back to our regular processing, you know, after reading these comments. And I'm encouraging you guys, keep tweeting and hashtag helping youth overcome. Hashtag capital H, helping capital Y, youth, capital O, overcome. Just tweet. And if you want, you can comment under the Instagram post with this flyer with as it relates to the presentations that we'll have today. This is the first in our seminar series, and we're going to keep going. I know you guys enjoy the presentations, and if you did, you can send some thumbs up. You know, you can interact a little with the chat, the messaging board that we have here. You can interact, and those on YouTube as well. I know there are a couple of people on YouTube as well. You can interact with us there, and you can interact with us on Twitter. So while we're going at it, we heard a beautiful rendition earlier from Miss Delicia Gill, beautiful voice she shared with us, and We really enjoyed it. And we're going to ask that she come again and share with us as we are like smack in the middle. Savoy says, great presentation. Awesome. We're going to ask Delisa to come and share with us once more that beautiful voice of hers as we continue with our program for today.
Good afternoon once more. Bird flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossoms on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies are having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this old world is a new world and a bold world for me, for me. Ooh. Stars when you shine, you know what I mean. Scent of the pine, you know what I feel. Freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life, and I'm feeling good. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for having me.
Wow, I don't know about the other people in the chat, but I'm feeling good. I don't know if you guys felt good, but you can send some of the applause that's there. You know, you can send some in the chat so that we can interact with each other a little more. And you know, I don't know, but that was amazing. I'm feeling good. I'm really feeling good, and I'm still encouraging you guys to tweet using the hashtag helping youth overcome. Tweet using the hashtag because we'll continue to read your tweets as we go along. And that was just in the midst of our presentations. I don't know if you agree with me, but I think we've had some awesome yet concise presentations so far. I would have learned a lot. I think you'd have learned a lot. And as a result, we're going to continue. We have just about 2 more presentations, right? Right now, we're going to go into our third presentation, or third out of the 4 presentations, and we're going to have Tavoy Barrett, who is the youth member of parliament for St. Thomas Eastern, to come and introduce this presenter, as this presenter speaks to us about effective resume writing. Tavoy, over to you.
All right, just checking if everybody can hear me.
Yes, we're hearing you.
All right, awesome. Paris Mitchell Barrett is a creative, energized by passion, innovation, and impact, who sees her role in the world as encouraging and enabling others to be active players, championing empowerment and advancement within their own lives, their countries, and the world. She is a youth empowerment officer with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, and has worked to support over 100,000 youth in their personal and professional development for over 10 years. Paris specializes in the design and presentation of professional resumes and in preparing youth for employment through the development of effective interviewing skills, employability skills, job acquisition, and job retention skills. Paris Mitchell has been a trainer, recruitment, and training activities, has been a trainer with the Heart NSTA Trust for the past 4 years, and has been invited to facilitate employment, recruitment, and training activities for the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and the Office of the Prime Minister, among several corporate companies, political, and governance bodies. Paris Mitchell is a mentor, a disability rights advocate, a former member of the Caribbean Regional Youth Council, and a member of the Commonwealth Youth Health Network. She is also a 2018 recipient of the Governor General's Achievement Awards for Excellence, and also a shortlisted nominee for the 2018 Prime Minister's National Youth Awards. So help me in welcoming Mrs. Paris Mitchell Barrett as she does her presentation.
Thank you so much, Tavoy. Although you butcher part of my name though, Tavoy. So I forgive you though, because it happens all the time. It's a very long name. My name is Paris Michelle Barrett Powell. I am not married. I have both my parents' last names. My father's last name is Barrett. My mother's last name is Powell. And the Michelle is a Michelle and not a Michelle. But I forgive you though. I forgive you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much, David, for inviting me to be a part of this session and to be on the list of these super awesome facilitators. Today, I won't be turning my video on today. You just need to hear me, all right? So I'll share my screen really quickly. Oh, and guys, today is supposed to be my first vacation leave, but I really could not say no. So here I am and here we are. All right, everybody's hearing me, everybody's seeing my screen.
Yeah, we're hearing and seeing your screen.
Okay, great. All right, usually this is a 2.5 to 3 hour session that I will be condensing in 40 minutes. Usually I do this session with cover letter writing as well, but I have removed that aspect of the presentation today because that will take us up to 2.5 to 3 hours. So I'm going to get right into it. For today's session, we're going to be focusing on effective resume writing, and it's really an introduction to the basics of writing an effective resume. We're going to be looking at what a resume is and what its purpose is, the 3 main types of resumes, the key components of resumes, top resume writing mistakes, the do's and don'ts of resume writing, and the anatomy of an effective resume, where I'm going to show you the steps for writing an effective resume. And I'm also going to show you a comparison between what I would like to think is an ineffective resume converted into an effective resume. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, either type in the section, in the chat section, or you can verbalize your questions. So we have 6 agreements today. I do these agreements with all my sessions. For one, we want to be very open to learning and open to actioning new information that we receive today. Your resume is your resume. You can choose to do it any way you see fit. So the information that I give you today, you can feel free to take it or leave the information. Always fact check, whether you're fact checking me or anybody else. It's very important that you fact check, because a lot of us have received information on how to write a resume, how to do an interview, how to do this, how to do that. And it could be coming from a good place, but it may be outdated information or incorrect information. So always fact check and ask questions, guys. I'm expecting a lot of questions when we finish, because it's how we learn. And of course, I said this is an introduction to resume writing. So I'm really not telling you everything that you need to know about writing your resume. And the last thing is, you are the expert in your own empowerment. So you know what you need to do, and you have the power to empower yourself in this process, all right? Alrighty, so we're starting off with what is a resume? So most, if not all of us, either know what a resume is, have created a resume before, or we've been in a session regarding resume writing, right? So all of us know some way or the other what a resume is. So you just type in the comment section, in the chat section, what you think or what you know a resume to be. I'll be waiting. And there are no stupid responses or questions. Just tell me really quickly what you think a resume is or what you know a resume to be. Can we get the presentation after? I'll think about it, Shani. I'll think about it. I know I was gonna get that question. I usually don't send out my my resume presentation. I might send this one, or I might recreate one to be sent with the same information. It's a very what would I say? It's a very heavy document, so it takes a lot of space in terms of megabytes, gigabytes, one of them. All right, so Asha says a resume is a document noting your achievements, training, prior work experience, and community involvement. Lori says a resume is a formal way to sell yourself to your potential employee, keeps track of your professional progress to showcase what you've accomplished. A resume, Aliyah says, a representation of an individual's experience and achievements. Marlene, resume is basically a summary of your professional experience, training, and your accomplishments. Google, y'all don't need me. A resume or resume is a document created and used by a person to present their background, skills, and accomplishments. Right, Raphael, you Google that, don't? Let's see, I put Google there. So I'm going to butcher your name. Yanish, I like that. A resume is a summary document that outlines your professional progress and involvement. Una don't need me today. Y'all know what a resume is. So yeah, that basically all those responses are correct. That's basically what a resume is. A resume is a professional document that is used to outline your qualifications, basically for the purpose of gaining employment. Boy, I want to skip to the next slide, but this laptop is telling me no, it's just not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Give me a second, let me. Here we go. Yes, yeah. So a resume is a document that is used to provide a summary of your skills, abilities, and accomplishments, usually for the purpose of gaining employment. And I say usually because it's not only why a resume is prepared. I remember when I was joining the Caribbean Regional Youth Council, I had to prepare a resume. It was not paid employment. We were volunteers, but we were volunteering in a leadership position to execute certain activities in a particular role. And so they wanted a resume to see, you know, what our background was, etc. It's a quick snapshot or a quick advertisement of who you are and what you bring to the table, right? So in your resume, you're really supposed to be focusing on what value you bring to an organization and what your potential impact would be. A snapshot of you with the intent of capturing and emphasizing your interests and securing you an interview. The resume is supposed to secure you an interview. The interview is to secure you the job. It is a marketing and a branding tool. It is used to sell yourself. It is an advertisement. So picture yourself as a business and your resume is your advertisement. So you want to make sure that in your resume, you highlight the most important and the most relevant information. Employers use resumes throughout the hiring process to learn about the applicant's suitability for the job. You want to see whether or not this person is suitable for both the job and the organization. So your resume should be easy to read, easy to navigate. It should summarize your accomplishments and skills and highlight only your relevant experience and education, and a stress relevant, because I've seen resumes with every single experience and education, including primary school education, which I'll get to later in the do's and don'ts. Never include your primary school or basic school education on your resume because it is not relevant. All right. Here's this fact I want to share. Recruiters tend to take an average of 6 seconds to scan a resume. Just 6 seconds, not minutes, not hours, seconds. A lot of times, facilitators or recruiters rather, we have a lot of applicants who send their resumes. You have a lot of emails going through, a lot of job applications going through. You don't have time to sit down and read through a resume thoroughly at the onset. And so usually when we have a whole heap of resumes to go through, we take 6 seconds to scan the resume, average 6 seconds to scan the resume. And in that 6 seconds or after those 6 seconds, we decide whether or not we keep the resume or we discard of the resume. And in keeping the resume would be part of the short, these people would be shortlisted for an interview. So you want to make sure that the resume is structured in such a way that it highlights the most important things and highlight those things that the employer is looking for.
Did you know creating a personal brand is critical to any career development process? And crafting an impressive resume is one of its main components. So what exactly is a resume? It's a document that tells prospective employers exactly what you want them to know about you and why you would be a good fit for their open position. In a sense, it's a way for you to put your best foot forward, a way to sell yourself on paper to a potential employer.
Yeah, so that basically sums up what a resume is. Your resume is the first impression that an employer will usually get of you. Of course, people who are applying for promotions or jobs at places that they, people know them, the person might have an impression of you before, but still, it's usually the first impression the employer will get of you. So you want to make a good one. There are 3 main types of resume formats. You have the chronological resume, the functional or skills format, and of course, the combination resume. We're going to watch a little video that's going to explain to us what these 3 are and how to select the right one for you.
Choosing the right resume format is a critical part of building a great resume, which is why we're here to help you find the format that works best for you. The most common format is the chronological resume. This format lists your work history from your current or most recent job to your next most recent job, and so on. Each entry includes your job title, company name, and dates of employment, along with your tasks and achievements. This format is a great all-around choice for most job seekers. It's clear, reliable, and popular with employers. Another format is the functional resume, also known as a skills-based resume. This format highlights your skills, tasks, and job titles without revealing the dates of your job history. It's important to note that many hiring managers do not like this format because they can't use it to gauge your longevity or how recently you've used certain skills. Nevertheless, the functional resume may work well if you are changing careers or if you have gaps in your employment history. However, if you take the functional resume and add dates to the job history, then you have the much more popular combination resume. The combination resume combines the 2 previous formats by listing job skills and experience while also providing dates of employment. This format works well for many types of job seekers, such as those who have a diverse skill set, are trying to change careers, or have a steady work history. Employers like this format because it focuses on skills and experience while providing a clear timeline of your job history. Choosing the right format is a big part of making your resume effective, so take the time to find the type that presents you in the best light possible.
Alrighty, so we would have seen where, we have three different types of resumes, the functional or skills format, the combination, and of course the chronological resume. With the chronological resume, it's usually done in reverse chronological order with your most recent experience or your most recent education listed first. So using myself as an example, if I was applying for a job now, my most recent experience would be this one: Youth Empowerment Officer, Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, December 2016 to present, right? And then the next most recent one before that, Director of Training and Support, Jamaica School for Social Entrepreneurship, 2015 to 2017. And then before that, all right? So that's how you want to list it. As well with your education, guys, as I said, the most recent and most relevant one, which would more than likely be your university degree. If you do not have a university degree, your diploma. If it is your CXCs, it's your CXCs or your CSEC. Now, if it is that you do have a degree, you wouldn't need to list your CSEC or CXC subjects unless it is absolutely necessary for you to do so. For example, if you are, okay, so I helped a young lady a couple of years ago with applying to be a paralegal. Her university degree was not in legal studies. However, she did law in Cape 1 and 2. Yeah, I think that's how it goes. Yeah, law in Cape twice. So she had, yeah, that thing. So we included it in her resume because she had no other formal education in legal studies except that one. So that's when you would include it there. Alrighty. All right, so we're on to this one. What you should avoid when writing your resume, the top 8 resume writing mistakes, and it's the top 8 and it's not just only 8. We have a whole heap of mistakes, but these are the top 8 that I see that cost people the opportunity for being selected for an interview. The first one is failing to do any sort of research at all or adequate research on the job or the organization. Prime example, organizations tend to come to me to assist with recruiting persons for jobs within their organization. So I remember one organization sent me their job advertisement. I posted it in my WhatsApp groups and I said, hey, send your application to me via email at whateveremail.com by Friday, August, whenever. And within a minute or two, I got an email with a resume. And I'm like, and I knew it wasn't going to be good, because there's no way this person would have had time to research the job, research the organization, and prepare a matching resume in 1-2 minutes. I checked the email, and of course, the resume was not good because it was a resume that was prepared for another job. It's a similar job, but it's not the same job and it's not the same organization. You always want to do adequate research on the organization and the job, because if you don't do research, you're not going to know what to include in the resume, right? You're going to assume probably, or you're going to just send us a general resume, and there is absolutely no such thing. And this is me debunking a myth. There's no such thing as a general resume. You don't send out a general resume. You send out a specific personalized resume for each job you are applying for. All right, so you have to do your research. The second mistake is poor readability and navigation. Resumes too jumbled up, or there's no sectioning or proper sectioning. We can't see what is happening. We can't pick out the education from the relevant experience. We don't know what we're looking at. We don't know what we're looking at. You want to make sure that you structure your resume in a way that it is very clear, it is very readable. Looking at it, I can tell where the education is, the experience is, the leadership skills, and where your profile is very easily, and then we can navigate through it. an unprofessional email address. So at the very first part of your resume tends to be your name and your contact information, including your email address. So of course, that's the first place we're going to look. Now, when we see an unprofessional email address, and I've seen this so many times, chromasgirl89 at whatsitnot.com, genocide god this at whatever, we're not going to call you. It's not going to happen. When you have an unprofessional email address, you squash your credibility as a professional. It happens so many times, and it's I think it's the most irritating mistake, because then I feel like it is expected that you would know to put a professional email address. All of us, I feel, have at some point had an unprofessional email address, but we use it for personal things. Like my unprofessional email address, I use it to sign up for apps and some software and, you know, games and stuff like that. That's what I do it for. I don't use it to send out resumes and emails. Nobody wants to send a job letter or an invitation for an interview to chromasgirl89 at wherever.com. Ain't nobody want to be doing that. So always create a professional email address. Use your first name and your last name at whatever.com. If your first name and that last name is too common, that's fine. Use a variation of it. So for example, I know my first and last name are common. All right, let me use Joel Nandarkum. I hope I didn't butcher his last name, but let's use Joel. I don't think there's any other Joel Nandarkum at all, right? So Joel can easily use his name, Joel Nandarkum at gmail.com, right? Now, if your name is John Doe or John Brown, trust me, you're not gonna find John Brown available at gmail.com, right? Create a variation of it. If your name is John George Brown, use John George Brown at gmail.com, right? Or John underscore whatever. Do a thing with your name, with your actual professional name. If it is taken, use a variation of it as best as possible. Avoid using symbols and numbers unnecessarily, right? If you need to use the number and the symbol, use it to, you know, separate your name from what of other common names are there or email addresses are there, but do not use the symbols and the numbers unnecessarily in your email address, all right? Failing to prove your past and potential impact. In the resume I'm going to show you after I finish the PowerPoint, I'll show you, you'll see what I'm talking about. Don't just put that you worked somewhere, all right? Don't just put, for example, Paris Michelle, I worked at Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Youth Empowerment Officer, execute the Ministry of Education's Youth Empowerment Mandate, full stop. And then I continue to the next job. I'm completely robbing myself of all the things that I would have done and all my impact and accomplishments for the past 3.5 years. You have to highlight and showcase what your impact and accomplishments have been. And of course, I'll show you how to do that. Using too many cliches and common phrases is happened so many times. And I know we know them. I'm an effective leader, strong leadership skills, I'm assertive, I'm disciplined, I'm dedicated, I'm hardworking, I'm an effective team player. And I know you're hearing me list them out and you're like, Miss, what we supposed to put on a resume and if we don't put it? You don't have to state that you're a good team player or a good leader or you have effective leadership skills. You can imply it. And I'm going to use our next presenter as an example, Christina. Christina is the outgoing president of the UWI Mona Guild. Yes, I got that right? I like to think so. And imagine if I see Christina's resume and it only says President, UWI Mona Guild, 2019 to 2020. Christina would have robbed herself of everything that she would have accomplished during that time as president. Quickly highlight some of the things them where you put, right? Instead of just saying, oh, hey, I've been an effective leader. All she has to do is put that she's been president of UWI Mona Guild and highlight a 1 and 2 thing about her impact. Put that she was in NSSC, put that the other leadership, something them. Those things imply that she has been a good leader, or else they won't put her back in a different leadership positions, right? If you have been the captain of your football team for 4 years, you must have been a good captain while you've been there for 4 years. Imply it. So use hard evidence. to show that you're a good team player, you're a good leader, you're a good whatever. You've led your team to accomplish X, Y, and Z. Write it out as opposed to just saying that you're a good team player. When your resume is too lengthy, you tend to miss out. We tend to, the people reading it tend to miss out on the important details because it gets buried. And then when it's too lengthy as well, as I said, it takes about 6 seconds average to scan the resume. We can't go say the most important things when you have such a lengthy resume. Also, overcomplicating the layout of the design. I've seen resumes with pictures, skills graphs with a little dots beside Microsoft Office or whatever other skill. It's not necessary. Just write it. Don't overcomplicate it, the design. All right. We have a lot of modern creative resume templates. You don't need to be having all these color, pretty graph, image on your resume. It's not necessary. It's distracting. And the final one is failure to optimize the first quarter of your resume. The first quarter, if you fold a resume paper and the paper you do your resume on is 8.5 by 11, that's the one. Letter size paper, if you fold it in 3, starting at the top in equal thirds, that first quarter is very important, right? It's not just your name and your contact information. It is also your profile, who you are and your skills. So that first quarter, you have to make sure that you pack it up with the information that is relevant. Of course, you can't put all the relevant information there, but ensure that first part that we see is so impactful. We not only want to read further, but we want to call in for the interview, all right? Alrighty, so now we're going into the tips and steps for writing an effective resume.
In order to sell yourself effectively, I'm going to run through a checklist of what you should keep in mind. Bear in mind, everyone has a different opinion on what works, but there are some overarching principles that seem to work well in most industries. First, let's talk about formatting. You'll need to create the framework of your resume by creating effective headings. These can be your education and experience type sections, but could also include leadership, scholarships, or honors. It really just depends on what you want to present to potential employers. Once you know which sections you'll use, you'll also want to consider putting the sections in an order that best links your skills to an employer's opportunity. It's also good to keep in mind some general formatting rules. You want to have margins that are 1/2 inch to 1 inch all the way around. It's also good to choose just 1 or 2 fonts and to keep the font at a 10 to 12 point size. Once you've gotten the framework set, you'll start filling in the gaps. Starting at the top, you want to provide your name and your accurate contact information. Some people also choose to include
All right, Murphy's Law has showed up once more. Let me just reopen that really quickly. Let me see if I've been having any questions. Right, where were we? Everybody still hearing me? I just want to make sure everybody hearing me still.
Yeah, we're still hearing you.
Okay, great. All right, let me just go back to this PowerPoint. And Murphy is still here. Is he? No, he's gone. He's gone. So let's get back to that video really quickly. Here we go.
In order to sell yourself effectively, I'm going to run through a checklist of what you should keep in mind. Bear in mind, everyone has a different opinion on what works, but there are some overarching principles that seem to work well in most industries. First, let's talk about formatting. You'll need to create the framework of your resume by creating effective headings. These can be your education and experience type sections, but could also include leadership, scholarships, or honors. It really just depends on what you want to present to potential employers. Once you know which sections you'll use, you'll also want to consider putting the sections in an order that best links your skills to an employer's opportunity. It's also good to keep in mind some general formatting formatting rules. You want to have margins that are 1/2 inch to 1 inch all the way around. It's also good to choose just 1 or 2 fonts and to keep the font at a 10 to 12 point size. Once you've gotten the framework set, you'll start filling in the gaps. Starting at the top, you want to provide your name and your accurate contact information. Some people also choose to include a link to their LinkedIn or other online profile. I'd recommend this if your online presence is up to date and helps to enhance your resume. The next section of a resume is often a summary of skills or an objective statement. This section can be really useful in providing context for the reader. Why are you applying? Why are you the best fit? You can use this section to paint that picture effectively and give context for what's to come in subsequent sections. After the summary of skills or objective statement, you'll often see an education section or an experience section, depending on which is more relevant to the position. If you've been in a degree program recently and honed in on new relevant skills, you might lead with an education section. If you've been working in the field for many years and want to take a next step in the field you're already in, the experience section might make the most sense. In either case, you'll want the experiences outlined to be in reverse chronological order, highlighting your most recent education or experience first. When you begin to work on your experience section, be sure your bullet points include action verbs in tenses that reflect past or ongoing work. Try not to exceed 2 to 4 bullet points per position, though this, of course, varies depending on your length of tenure at a position. Bullet points should demonstrate key skills and major accomplishments, using numbers and percentages rather than routine tasks and duties. After education and experience, it's a good idea to add other sections to flesh out 1 complete or 2 complete pages. Often, students will consider a section called Relevant Coursework and Projects to draw out some meaningful work completed within the classroom. If you're still looking for additional sections, to complete your resume, consider volunteer work, honors, or extracurricular activities, placing special emphasis on any leadership roles you may have had. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, your resume is the first impression you get to make on someone.
Murphy, I don't know why Murphy, he just keeps showing up. Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. But yes, so we're talking about the format and structure of your resume. When you're structuring your resume, you want to make sure that you choose, as the video said, the best sections for you and outline them the way you need them to. So for example, as she said, if it is that you have been working in a field for a long time and you want to delve into a similar field, you want to make sure that you start with your experience. So for example, I would start with my experience if I was seeking another job doing what I'm currently doing as a youth empowerment officer, because my experience has been vast, like significantly vast in the field. I have a background in social work. I wouldn't lead with saying that I have a bachelor's degree in social work, because then somebody else might lead with their bachelor's degree in youth development, which might, seem better than mine. But then I would lead with my experience, and there's a lot that is there to talk about with my experience. So just to share that a little bit, let me get this video, or I'm gonna skip it because I feel like Murphy just doesn't want us to watch this video, and then I'm going to jump to 10 effective resume writing steps. Let me just, or should I just leave it like that? Yeah, there we go. 10 effective resume writing steps. Usually when I assist persons with writing resumes and I assist persons with writing resumes, I don't write resumes for people unless they are persons with disabilities for obvious reasons. When I assist persons with writing their resumes, these tends to be the steps that we go through in writing the resumes. For number one, the most important thing is that you have to know who you are. You are unable to, you can't sell what you don't know. You cannot sell what you do not know. You have to know who you are. You have to know what your skill set is. You have to know where you bring value. You have to know where you're most impactful and where you can add value to an organization, because that is what you're going to use to create your resume. You have to do your research. After doing your research on yourself, you do your research on the job and the organization you are applying to, because that information you're going to use to determine what you include in your resume. Right? When you research the job, you more than likely look at the job description. The job description will tell you exactly what the employer is looking for usually. When you look in the Sunday Gleaner, in the classifieds, in the career section, there tend to be so many job descriptions that are very detailed. They tell you exactly what skills they're looking for, what educational background, what the person is expected to be doing. So you have an idea what you should be reflecting on your resume. Always match your interests, qualifications, and experience to the job. So you need to know about the job to be able to match your interests, qualifications, and experience to the job. Choose the best resume format and section. So whether you need to use a chronological resume, functional, or a combination resume, and choose the best sections for you. So if you start out, for example, with your profile, then your skills, then your education, your experience, and your leadership and activities, or you might choose to start with your skills and then jump in with your experience, then your education. You would know which one is best for you to start off first based on your experience and education and skills, as well as your background and what they're looking for in the job. Also, structure your resume to highlight your strongest area first, and that's basically what I said a while ago. So for me, I tend to start with my experience because that is my strongest area. I have a bachelor's degree that I got in 2015. My experience surpasses that. So I always start with my experience. Now, if it is you're somebody coming out of high school or you have little to no experience, start with your education, of course, because you don't want to start with experience that is scanty. All right, so lead with your education, or for example, if it is that you are shifting, if it is that your experience is in an area that does not match your degree. So the resume I'm going to show you is a resume like that. Her experience and what she was applying for doesn't match her degree. Her degree was in education. I think it was English language. What she wants to do and what she has been doing is administrative work, right? And so, of course, she led with her experience because that is what made most sense. Start with a strong, clear, concise, and effective professional summary or profile. Nix the job objective. Nix the objective. Don't put it there, right? For your objective, the objective says what we all know. You want to work. Usually an objective starts off by you want to acquire a job in an organization to apply your skills to effectively execute the mandate of the job or something to that effect. We know what you're going to say in the objective is that you want a job and to apply your skills. A professional summary or professional profile tells the employer more about who you are and what value you bring or could possibly bring to the organization. And I'll give you an example of that in the resume that I'm going to look at. List only the most relevant skills based on the job description and your knowledge of what is required for the job. Clearly state your experience. Highlight your accomplishments and impact using bullet points and action words in bold and persuasive language. This is not the place or the time to be humble or coy. You have to be bold with who you are and what your impact has been. Don't leave it to the assumption of the recruiter or the person reading your resume that when you say that you have delivered effective administrative support, that you printed and you did it. No, tell me what you do. Tell me what you do. In once, just tell us what you did. All right? Don't just put you were the secretary, full stop. All right? Number 9, include only your most relevant and recent educational qualifications and certificates, and we mentioned that earlier. And of course, include your most impactful leadership and voluntary experience while briefly expounding on your impact and accomplishments as a leader and a volunteer. Now, there are times when, for example, on my resume, I only list them. I only list my leadership and voluntary activities because there are many. And so I find the most important ones and I just list those, what my position or my role was, the organization I volunteered in or I led, and the time period, right? And so that, I feel like it just speaks for itself. Now, if it is that you feel like you need to highlight it a bit more, you can use bullet points or say a 1 or 2 sentence on what it is that your impact was during this time as a volunteer or a leader. All right, so I went through the 10, yeah. So we went through the 10 effective resume writing steps. Now we're going to look at a video, and it's just a little video of what not to include on your resume, and you might be a little surprised by some of the things you're not supposed to include. So I know I'm going to get a question about hobbies, or people are curious about why not to include your hobbies. Unless it is necessary, don't include it. Because usually when persons include their hobbies, they include reading, watching TV, socializing with friends, surfing the internet. Nobody cares. Honestly, honestly, it sounds harsh, but honestly, when we look at it on a resume, why would you include this? It's not a social media site, you know, guys. Don't include your hobbies on it unless it is relevant. For example, if you're applying for a job as a teacher, or let me use a youth empowerment officer. You're applying for a job as a youth empowerment officer, right? Now, youth empowerment officers engage young people in their development in very many ways, including using sports for youth development. So if it is that you have a background in coaching football, or cricket, or squash, or something to that effect, or basketballs, you play basketball for 10 years and you like it, so you know what is a, when the people jump and dunk, you know the basketball stuff, right? You know those things, and you know you can leverage your knowledge and experience playing basketball to help young people to either work well in a team, learn effective social skills, whatever it is. You can include it on your resume, because then you can see where it can be linked, you know, to your job, and you effectively executing your job. And you can explicitly state it, link it back in your cover letter, right? Don't include, you know, random hobbies just because, right? All right, let's move on. We only have a couple seconds before my 40 minutes is up. So let me hurry up and do this for you. All right, so why you're not supposed to include your objective statement and instead switch it out for a professional summary or a profile is because the objective tends to tell the hiring manager what they want, that what they already know, which is that you want the work and you want to apply your skills in the job, right? It focuses on what you want. You want to acquire a job and you want to apply your skills to do X, Y, and Z, right? The executive summary, or it's kind of like an elevator pitch, or your profile, which is what I use. I use a profile. It articulates your value to the employer. It ensures clear understanding of your selling points and emphasizes your key strengths. I would strongly encourage you to mix the objective statement and use an executive summary or a professional profile instead. All right. Keys of success for resume writing: use hard evidence, not cliche, as I mentioned before. Instead of saying that you're a good team player, highlight, you know, areas or past experiences in which you have been a good team player. Write only about your best. I remember a young lady, she had her resume. It was really in her cover letter that she included it. She was applying to be a cashier, and she highlighted in the very first paragraph that she wasn't good at math and she didn't like people. And I said, why would you tell me this? You're gonna have to, talk to people as a cashier, and you're gonna have to do math as a cashier. So don't put it there, right? Omit irrelevant jobs from Nago. When we talk about this, my resume goes back to 10 years and it's all relevant. So my time I have to just cut out some of the relevant things because I'm like, there's enough relevance here. I don't need to be packing it up with things from Wappy Kill Philip and the Three Wise Men. Strongly consider the professional summary as I mentioned, right to the job, be very, very specific. You cannot send the same resume to Flo as you would send to Giselle, even if you're applying to be the same technician. It's not possible. Right to the job, right to the organization. You cannot send the same resume to be a home ec teacher as you would to be a physics teacher. That's not possible. Use unique interest in job-specific action verbs, and these are some action verbs that you can utilize to find other action verbs. You can just type it in Google it. If you want action verbs for teacher resume, literally type that in and they'll send you a lot. You'll see a lot of action verbs that you can use to articulate what you want to say, not to lie, to articulate, right? So for example, the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica, Surrey County would have conceptualized this youth development series, right? Somebody would have designed the program and the flyer. After this, they will be evaluating the session and its impact, and I am facilitating the session and delivering the information, right? And somebody would have organized and somebody would have recommended, so you see where you can use these words to highlight under in the bullet point sentences what you would have done and what your impact.
Phrases to avoid on your CV, a monster guide.
Acting as your personal advertisement, the presentation and structure of your CV is crucial. Unfortunately.
All right, so we're going to skip the video because Murphy's Law. So that video is basically highlighting some phrases you're not supposed to include in your CV, like responsible for. So I see people put responsible for something. Don't put responsible for on your resume, right? We know you're responsible for something and that's why you were hired in the position. Just put what you did do. Right? So I'm not going to put that I was responsible for youth development in the parish of St. Elizabeth. I just put youth empowerment officer, Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, put the St. Elizabeth in at the bracket beside youth empowerment officer, and then start off with my bullet points below that. Coordinated, facilitated, assembled, recommended, designed, it's whatever it is, right? And just highlight it. Let me go back to this real quick. I don't know what is happening with my PowerPoint, but let's finish it up really quickly. And I really want to show you, I know I'm a little bit out of time, but I really want to show you the right? Yes, nobody cares. For real, nobody cares about what your hobbies have been. And I am skipping the cover letter. Oh, so we actually finished, guys. We finished, right? The last thing I wanted to share before I went into showing you the recipes, don't forget to be awesome. This is not the place to be coy. It's not the place to be humble about who you are as a professional. Don't be talking about what you and your team did. You and your team are not applying for our work. You are applying for the work, right? So if you led your team into doing this, or if you supported your team in doing X, Y, and Z, say that. Me and my team members did. No one cares. Don't do that. You are high. You are not sharing your salary with your team members when you get the work, right? So always do not forget to be awesome. I find people leave out some of the most important things from their resumes that come up in the interview, and I'm just like, you never said anything, and I didn't know these things. And some of the times this person, scraped through to get into the interview, and they never said nothing at all in the interview in the resume about some of the things that they did. So always remember to be very intentional with what you want to say in your resume and highlight the most effective things. We're going to look now the resume that I've been talking about. So this is an actual resume that one of my young people had prepared for a job. This is using the Heart resume template. This is a template that Heart NSTA Trust uses for their organization. It is also a template that I do not recommend persons to use when looking for jobs because it is a standard template. If all of us here were supposed to use this very same template to apply for a job, all of our resumes would look the same, even though it contains different information. And that's why I don't recommend it. That's really it. And of course, it has a lot of sections in there, and it's very long. It's very long, right? So one mistake, she uses a career objective, and it's to be productively engaged in an organization where my skills can be effectively utilized to enable X, Y, and Z. Typical. That is a typical objective. Everybody is saying something similar to this in an objective, right? We changed that to a professional profile right there, right? Resourceful administrative support professional offering excellent office management skills with strong proficiency in Microsoft Office suite and administrative management. Strong planner and analytical problem solver who readily adjusts to changing work dynamics and demands. Lauded for exceeding expectations and being able to manipulate multiple priorities and meet deadlines while maintaining quality. Or basically, she get things done quick, but still high quality, right? Work experience, and I really want to highlight this section. So her work experience, administrative assistant. Now I knew her because I've worked with her, and I knew that what she put here, duties include providing general office support, administrative duties, and customer service, was robbing her completely of all the things that she had done. And so we fixed it. For one, we include the skills, relevant skills right there. So, and this was based off the job description that was presented, right? The employer was looking for somebody who could do all of these things. And of course, she included because she could do all of these things because these were the things that she was doing in her employment while she was administrative assistant and graduate work experience program secretariat at Heart Trust NTA in Santa Cruz, right? Now, as you see, none of those things are listed here at all. Nothing is listed there. You see how much bullets she used? We had to use all of those bullets because, as I said before, her education did not match what she was doing, right? Because her education did not match the administrative field that she's in, we highlighted some of the relevant courses from her education that were relevant, of course, to the job that she's applying for. So you see, you use the bullet points, you use strong action words straight off the bat: function, operate, record, aid, support, disseminate, collect, liaise, successfully coordinate, populate and update, prepare, organize, distribute, collate data, etc. And of course, for her customer service at the call centers, same thing. She never, it wasn't there at all, right? If an employer get this, imagine this was somebody else's resume, and this person was different. Which one you think they would have focused on more? I'd like to think that everybody is saying this one, right? Yeah, you want to highlight what you did, and you want to make sure every single thing that you put on the resume is relevant to the job that you're applying for. I have a level 2 certificate from Heart in cosmetology. It has never been on any resume that I have prepared because I've never applied to do hair or nails or skin or nothing, right? So you want to make sure every single thing, as much as you have it, you don't have to put it on it if it's not relevant. Her education came in next, and of course, she just highlighted her front office service supervision certificate from Heart and her education from Bethlehem Moravian College, and highlighted the courses relevant to the job that she was applying for, because as I said, it don't match. And then she had her references on a separate page. So she used 2 full pages for her resume. And yes, she did get the work. She get the work. So that is it for the presentation, guys. I want to thank you so much for having me and indulging me in going over my time a little bit for this session. As I mentioned earlier, I did leave out the cover letter section. I did leave out the cover letter section. If you want me to do the cover letter section, I can do that with you this evening if you're available. It will take me 20 minutes. I can create a Zoom session and you just WhatsApp me for the link. If it is that you're available, I can just create a Zoom session and we just go through it really quickly. To contact me, you can WhatsApp me at 435-0855. WhatsApp me, don't call me. WhatsApp me, please. WhatsApp me. 435-0855, or you can send me an email at paris-michelle.powell@moey.gov.jm, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much, guys. All right, let me see. Oh, grateful. Thank you. I'm reading the comments here. So, and guys, if I missed any questions, feel free to resend them, or Sandre can highlight them for me.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the questions that we have here, and well, you'd have answered a couple in the presentation, so I'm just going to go with the ones that were sent just now. Asha says, what are some tips to make your resume stand out aesthetically without doing too much? And two, if you have a major accomplishment, but it's not very recent, example, successful lobbying for local policy change, should it be included due to value or omitted due to time span?
No, let me answer that one first. No. You see, unless, let me tell you who are Asha. You see, unless it is that was proper long time ago, like literally when Wapikil flip on the three wise men. So for example, if take my age now, I am a little outside of the youth category. I am 31 years old this year. It's very hard for me to say I'm outside of the youth category now. But yes, I'm 31 this year. I would have left high school in 2006. I would not include anything that I did in 2000. I haven't included anything from 2015 before, right? Because it's not relevant. Now, if it is that it's so major that from high school, your lobby for change and one big policy change, yes, I would include it. I would tell you to include it briefly, include it in the leadership and activities section. So my recommendation for your structure is profile, skills, experience, education, and leadership and activities. And in that section, you would highlight that part. Najee, I've heard that you are not to put references available upon request on your resume. Is that true? I like to say that it is true, Najee, because it is always requested. We always want it. Because when are we going to request it? Is the question. That's the question. When are we going to request it? So we do want your references. You can choose to, as I show you here. So are you still seeing the resume?
Yeah, we're still seeing it.
All right. So 2 pages for the resume, and then the 3rd page is just the references. That's it right there, right? So you can choose to do that. You make sure you have the person's full name, their position, where they work or how they know you, and their contact information. Never put their personal address on it. Let me see. What are some tips to make sure your resume stands out aesthetically without doing too much? Choose a unique template. Yes, choose a unique template. So for this one, this is actually not how the template came. It came with a different color scheme, and we changed the color scheme. So you won't see another one looking exactly like it, because we would have changed some of the font, we would have changed some of the color scheme, some of the sizes of the font. So you want to be able to do that, personalize a template. If you create your template from scratch, like I've done, I create my template from scratch for myself, because I'm just enough, right? If you create your template from scratch, you want to make sure that you are highlighting the things that need to be highlighted. You want to use this thing called hierarchy. We use it in graphic design, where you see hierarchy here. So hierarchy is using either a specific typeface or doing things differently in certain sections to make it pop. So right here, so you see, we use hierarchy here. So the size of Kerry Ann Berry's name, as well as the color for administrative professionals. I didn't understand that. My phone decided to talk to me. But yes, so that's how you can do that. I hope I answered that question. adequately.
I think there's a long question
Oh
here.
God, this one is so long. All right, let me read it. I'm going to address it. Resumes are essential, but as it relates to Jamaica, I don't believe it is an effective way to gain employment alone. I have been employed twice, and both times it wasn't via applying formally for the position. I was recommended by someone who knew I was capable of doing the job. I see numerous job applications come into the organization daily, which are filed and stored. Still, when a position comes up, I can assure you that the employer doesn't even consider looking at his file. While it is great to have an effective resume, I believe networking is a smart room. Who sent this? Raphael? I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. I completely agree. The networking is a smart move to help you gain employment access and then have that great resume to seal the deal. What are your views on this issue? And have you observed that persons are more likely to get a job in the Jamaica through recommendation than applying directly for the job? Yes, yes, and yes, 100%. 100%. What you put on the resume has to be matched by your background and your experience. You have a lot of people who they have so much experience and their resume isn't effective, so it doesn't sell. I have people with little bit and they can sell themselves on the resume and they go through. Networking is very important, guys. How I got I'm gonna tell you my story of how I got my job as a youth empowerment officer. So I met Shamoy Hajar. Shamoy was the former youth empowerment officer for St. Elizabeth. I met her in October 2015, which was right after I graduated from university. And I met her at the Carfield College in Mandeville, where I was asked to facilitate a session for the National Secondary Students Council. We shared a projector for our presentations, and that's how we met. She saw me and she's like, she called me the next day. She's like, I was really impressed with you. And I spoke to the other youth empowerment officer and, he was telling me about you and I want to offer you a job. I'm like, okay, alrighty. At the time, I couldn't take up the job because somebody else had seen me when I was on practicum and had offered me a job before I graduated. So I had taken that up and then I went to work with Shamoy. And then when Shamoy was leaving the ministry, she said, I actually had applied for youth empowerment officer while I was on practicum, and that would have been, a year before I would have started as youth empowerment officer. And she came to me, she said, Paris, I'm leaving and they shortlisted you and they want you to consider the job. And when I went to the interview, they knew me. They knew about me because they heard stuff from other people about me. And then some of them, I knew them because they saw me doing some of these things. Networking is really important. And networking is what got me here. One of these days, I'm going to tell you the story of how I get from point A to point B to point C and all the way to Z through networking. It is very important. I see people make the mistake, and I think this is maybe I had 8 resume writing mistakes. This is the 9th one. They sit down at them yard with no experience, no networking. Nobody don't know you sending out a job application. Miss, me want to work. What kind of work you want? Miss, anything, miss. Say, okay, what do you have experience in? Or what have you been doing? Miss, me just the one, miss, I just look at work. Me send out some application, nobody not call me. Nobody not gonna call you, mama. Nobody not gonna call you. Nobody is gonna call you. Because you've been at home. There's nobody except mommy and daddy who knows you at home. You have to put yourself out there. And if you can't pick up yourself physically and go out, as Joel said, you can use the internet, you can use social media to network and build your personal brand. So thank you very much, Rathia, for saying that. What is considered a good or bad reference? A good reference is somebody who can talk about who you are as a professional, can answer the questions about what you've done in a particular position. If it is, for example, that you listed your supervisor, that person should be able to corroborate your statements about what you've done, what your impact is, why that person would recommend you for the job, what are your best qualities, etc. Right? A bad reference, I can't remember what I was listening to the other day, and they were talking about a situation where a young man was in an interview and he listed a reference. And the people who were interviewing him said that they called the referee, the person doing the reference. And she said that she never knew him. Oh, I was reading it on their dream. People, I was reading it on their dream. So, yeah. So she said the guy, the interviewers called the reference person. And the person said that she never knew him. And he then called her pretending that he was just checking up on her, and she was talking to him all friendly, happy. People, be very careful who you list. Be very, very, very careful who you list as your references. My references, I use people who know me as a professional. We've worked together. They have either supervised me, or we work side by side together, or they've hired me or something. They can tell you right off the bat what Paris is good at, what Paris's impact has been. They sell me. They're like my personal marketing team. So your references, whether 2 or 3, is your personal marketing team. They should know you as a professional, know what you're good at, know what you can do, know what impact you can create. They should be able to sell you. I don't recommend using Pastor and JP as a reference unless it is that these people know you as a professional, right? Because your Pastor and JP are just character reference. So I suggest using 2 professional references, or a professional and academic references, one of whom can also speak to your character. But you have to have somebody who can talk about who you are as a professional. Where can we find resume templates? Let me show you really quickly. Everybody still see my screen?
Yeah, we're still seeing your screen.
Yeah, this is where you can find some templates. There are a whole heap of templates online, but there's the link right there, HLOOM.com/resume/templates. So you can find lots of resume templates. It's very easy to find one and download. Let's download this one. Click, thank you. Yeah, so click on it. My internet is very slow, but okay. And you just click free over here, so you see where you can download it. You click it.
I think we're only seeing the Paris. I think we're only seeing the Curry and Berry resume right now.
Oh, really? Because you're not seeing this part? Hold on, let me tell you what.
Yeah.
Let me show you really quickly. Or second, it's sweet time. So what you can do is go to let me type it. HLOOM.com/resume/templates. Yeah, so you can find some there as well. Okay. All right. Any other questions? If you were the president of a major organization 10 years ago, you shouldn't include that. That's what you're saying. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. If it's relevant, include it. If you think it is still relevant, include it. For example, I wouldn't include my high school stuff because I graduated high school 2006. This is 2030. So I wouldn't include any of my high school stuff at all, regardless of the impact I created in high school, unless it is absolutely necessary, unless I think it's absolutely necessary for me to say so. So remember at the beginning, I said that you're the expert in your own empowerment. And so you would know what is relevant for you to include. All right. All right.
Oh.
I think that is it for our session, guys.
Well, that was indeed a very informative presentation. I really enjoyed, and I learned a lot. I don't know if you guys learned, but if you learn, you can put a thumbs up in the chat. You can put a thumbs up in the chat, and that's our 3rd speaker. And wow, we've been having amazing speakers. I want you guys to keep tweeting as well. Keep tweeting with the hashtag Helping Youth Overcome, with the hashtag Helping Youth Overcome on Twitter, and commenting on Instagram under the flyer that we have. We see people saying it was a great presentation. It indeed was a great presentation. It was interactive, informative, and we indeed learned a lot. And the examples were, they were right on point. Now we're moving really quickly to our final speaker, and we're going to have Demetrius Robe, Youth Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Southern, introduce our final speaker, who is somebody that I know. So go ahead, Demetrius.
Well, I am not Demetrius, but I do have the privilege of interviewing our final speaker. My name is David Salmon, the Surrey County Coordinator for the National Youth Parliament this year, and our final speaker is a very gifted one. Christina Williams is the final year student at the University of the West Indies, where she currently pursues a bachelor's degree in international relations with a double minor in social policy and development and public policy and management. She also has an emphasis, or rather a language emphasis, in Mandarin. Before being elected as the current the immediate past guild president of the UEMONA Guild of Students, she had spent over 10 years of her life as an ardent youth advocate and a serial humanitarian, extending service to her fellow youth, ensuring access to quality education, health services, and capacity building in areas of employability and leadership. Her skills in professional interviews and profile building has helped her to gain notable positions and commendations, such as the Governor General's Achievement Award when she was just 17 years old, and later became an advocacy and policy specialist assigned to the Commonwealth Youth Council that represents 1.2 billion people. Moreover, her successful profile earned her additional opportunities as a social impact volunteer, such as a social impact volunteer, such as a UNESCO Youth Ambassador, as well as a UNFPA Youth Advisor. However, in addition to her volunteer roles, her skills has allowed her to cop professional ones, such as the coveted internship in a UN multi-country office that she will start later this year, as well as the executive director role for a foundation based abroad, but with operations to commence here in Jamaica. It is with pride that I now welcome Christina Williams to be our final presenter for today's session.
Okay. Oh, okay. So my video is not working, but I have a PowerPoint. And by the way, before I do that, thank you so much, David, for your introduction. I am going to share my screen at this time. Just give me a second. Give me a second. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So the first thing I'm going to do before I even begin to speak, I am going to ask, let me see who I can see in the participants. Trying to find some names, okay. I'm going to pick on Sanjay because he has been doing an amazing job thus far, helping to moderate the session. So I'm going to ask Sanjay really quickly, tell me about yourself.
Okay, I'm a dedicated individual that loves international policy and I like economics. I like orange juice, you know. I think that's a basic overall overview of me.
Okay, Kimon Maxwell, are you here? Are you still online with us? And this is, by the way, I'm just picking random persons from the participant list. Kimon, are you here? If you can, just open your mic and identify if you are here. I know sometimes persons walk away probably for food or something. You're here, Kimon?
Yes, Miss, I'm here.
Okay, tell me one strength that you have. Go ahead, man. Tell me one strength.
I always no matter how giving up is so easy, I always try until I finally succeed.
Okay. All right. Yes, I'm hearing you. Are you finished? I'm not sure if she fell off.
Oh, no, Miss, I'm finished.
Okay, you're finished. All right, thank you so much for answering. Okay, is Sade Haynes here? All right, Sima Shade is not here with us. What about Andrew Folks, which is a friend of mine. Andrew, are you here? All right, I'm gonna try one more person before. Andrew Fairman. Andrew?
Hi, I'm here, but I think you should give other people a chance as well, based on what I do. I'm just tuning in and offering support.
Okay, no problem. All right, let me try. Let me see. Moya Clark. Moya? No, all right, let me try one last time. Let me see. Marcel. Marcel? Okay, I wanted one person to share a weakness with us and how they're able to overcome that. I don't know if there's anyone on the call who would be willing to do that, to share one weakness and how they have been working to overcome that weakness or to manage that weakness. Anybody who is willing to share, please go ahead.
Hello.
Hello. Who is talking?
Good afternoon. Khadisha.
All right. Go ahead, Khadisha.
I'd say my weakness is saying no. I have a tendency to take on a lot of responsibilities. Not to say that I'm not able to get them done, but it's just overwhelming sometimes. So what I've been trying to do is prioritize and delegate as well. So I'm a part of the School of Engineering's Representative Council. So what I do is find others that could handle what other students are asking me to do or asking about from me.
All right, thank you so much, Kadisha, and I really appreciate your willingness to be vulnerable with us, because persons tend not to like to answer those questions. They like to talk about their accomplishments and their skills, but people don't like to talk about their weaknesses or anything that could make them seem less than. So thank you so much. Now, today we're talking about how to secure the bag and how to secure the bag through mastering the job interview. And we like to talk about, securing the bag to make the money, as young people, is a term that we are using nowadays. But how can we do that through securing the job as well? And the reason why I asked those questions at the beginning of my presentation is because those questions that I just asked, I asked Andre to tell me about himself. I asked my friend, I don't remember her name, apologies for that. I asked her about her strengths, and Kadisha a while ago told me about her weaknesses. Those are 3 questions that are amongst the top 5 most commonly asked questions in a job interview. Now, let me ask, and you can just use a raise of hand, utilize that in the chat. How many of you have ever done a job interview? So say Siobhan say yes, him do a job interview. 2 persons go up. I'm just trying to Yanish, Miss Bennett said yes, she did a job interview. Let me see if anybody else hands going up. Asha says she also did, and there are other hands coming up. Right? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. So some of you have done job interviews. So what I'm going to tell you is nothing new. And some of you here may not have ever done one, or you probably did one and you didn't think it was your best job. And so I guess the nuggets that I provide here will help. Now, let me tell you this. I don't have a wealth of knowledge in job interviews. A young lady earlier mentioned in the chat that she believes that you need to balance having a good resume with networking. And I completely agree with her, because that is how I've been able to nail a lot of my roles, whether as a social impact volunteer or as, in the professional sense now of my internship with the UN or managing a foundation. When, for example, the foundation that I've been tasked to manage, the persons who own the who started, the founders of the foundation, they actually saw my work online. They saw an article with me. They found it interesting. They went through and dug up more information on me, and they said, yeah man, this girl looked like she have some promise. And they found my information online, my email, and I guess what Paris said about, you know, having an official email and a nice email. Imagine if I had Sexy Christina, that probably would have turned them off. I had I think a generic email. They reached out to me, and from there I sent in my CV, and then I got an interview, and I was able to get the job, paid job, to manage their foundation. Started work already abroad, and they want to bring operations to Jamaica, and they want me to manage not just the Jamaica side of the foundation, but also the global aspect. But of course, I will start off with Jamaica to get my feet wet. So she was very right, and I can personally attest to that. But even though they saw my work online, they reached out to me, they were interested, they also wanted me to do an interview, which I had to do. And so even though they already loved me, they had to, I would say, to get into the love aspect where they could entrust their foundation to my 22-year-old hands. They had to have an interview. They had to see me sell myself and prove myself worthy and deserving to manage this foundation. So I see where there's one person is waiting. I guess I can admit the person. See as if I have that role as well. So I've admitted the person. Welcome, Ms. Patterson. Okay, so I'm gonna move now to the next slide. That's strange. Why is it not? Okay, I'm not sure why it's not sliding across. So the first thing that you need to do is research. And I think a number of you here is actually, well, this is the agenda rather that we're going through. The research, gift of gab to practice questions. Persons said that I have the gift of gab. I know persons like David and Sandra definitely have the gift of gab as well, and Najee, where they're able to just spit out answers right off the bat. When I asked Sandra the question, tell me about yourself, Sandra didn't even pause for a second and just spit out the answer. For some persons, they would have been taken aback and they would have stuttered and said, about myself. So definitely have the gift of gab, but you still need to practice just to impress. To be early is to be late. We'll talk about that as well. And then into the interview itself, never sell yourself short. So we're going through it step by step. So the first one is research and prepare. Now, this aspect is very important. Reason being, when you go into the interview, you need to have a very in-depth understanding of the company, but even more so of the job that you're applying for. If you're applying for a large company, like some people may apply for a multinational organization, it's very difficult to know in depth everything about that company. It's impossible. Nobody expects you to know that, but you need to have an understanding at least of the job that you're applying for. Now, when they ask you when you go into the interview, they may not necessarily ask you directly, what do you know about the company? They may never do that, but it shows your preparedness and readiness to take on the job when you're able to insert what you know into your answers. Let me give you an example. So for example, they ask you about your strength, right? And you say, I am very good at time management. And you may then, in answering that question and saying you are very good at time management, you may even insert to say, and I think that a skill like that would be ideal for the culture of your company, because I have noted that in 2019, you had over 100 clients within this particular portfolio, and your staff would have had to be able to manage all those clients across 17 countries effectively. And because I have a skill of time management, I'm very good at that, I think it would be ideal for me to come on board, because I could lend that skill into helping to maneuver that very dynamic clientele that you have. So by you talking about your skill that you have, that you bond with, that you have with your farmer job or you come from high school or university with, you are also able to effectively communicate to the hiring team that you also know about. The fact that you're able to say you know about 100 clients for them have and then work in 17 countries, that goes to show that you're prepared and you know about the company. So always utilize the opportunities to insert as much information as you can. Never wait to have all the questions directed to you, because sometimes they won't ask all the questions for different reasons. You may be the 100th person being interviewed for that day, right? For the same job, and them tired and them over it and them fatigued. They're humans too, and they may not necessarily go through all the questions that they ask, right? Or they may be they just want to get through the interview, but you can't allow that environment to prevent you from selling yourself, and so you must insert. So you research about the company, research about the job. One idea I would give you as well is to, while you're in the weeks before the interview or the days before the interview, ensure that you imagine yourself in the role that you want to take on. And when you imagine yourself in the role, you start to think about daily activities. So you get up in the morning, you look after one egg, you drink some bush tea, right? You take the car, you go to work, you clock in at 8:30, you start your work day rather, and you're going through the day. And you person to me say, Christina, why would I do that? Why may I imagine this? It's important that you do that, or it helps you because you imagine and you immerse yourself into a daily activity for the job, so that when they ask you certain questions, like they may say to you, say, how would you manage a scenario where you are a customer service agent and the person starts well about it on the phone, right? Because you would have imagined yourself in that position before you went into the interview, it's easier for you to come up with an answer. You may not have the exact answer right away. You probably still need a minute or so to think, but at least you'd have done some of these emergent type activities before, so you're a little more prepared than in just sprung the answer on you in the interview. And you're already nervous. You'd already probably even run late. You probably never like the fact said the dress where you want to wear in a get iron pan time. So you're already coming to the interview with all these anxieties, right? And so because it's natural to be nervous and it's natural to be anxious, it's always good to be prepared so that the preparation will rise to the surface like oil above the water of all the anxieties that you have. Now, I put the point revisit and assess yourself because the questions I asked earlier about strengths and weaknesses, those are also going to be very important. And you need to talk to yourself. Some of us, we drown out ourselves with technology. We always up on Instagram and Snapchat, or we always are watch Netflix and I watch, let me see, the popular series now. We have Umbrella Academy. Which other popular series on it now that I have been watching? I don't recall, but I'm watching Umbrella Academy currently. And you drown out yourself with all that information that you're never silent, and you never talk to yourself, and you never assess yourself. So when somebody asks you, tell you about yourself, you can't answer. You realize that you don't even know what you really like. What you like enough, what you like in food, what you like. It's not like you don't, it's not that you don't know what you like, or what you're about. It's just that you haven't really taken the time to assess yourself where you can communicate in a very clear way and a concise way as well, who you are and what you represent. And not just that, but what you are able to offer the job. And that's very important, ladies and gentlemen, young people. You need to be able to connect the two. What is it about the company that you'd have found out, especially in relation to your job that you're applying for, but also what is it that you're able to offer the company in that regard? So you have to connect the two. Nobody no want to hear about you alone. This is not an interview about yourself, just you and all your 20 years of experience or whatever. They want to see how that will factor into their company's culture, as well as their company's bottom line. Them they have to make money off of you. It's simple as that. You did have to secure your bag because you want to afford a nice apartment and buy one nice car or whatever, and you have nice money where you can go missing or sell at 8 on the weekends with a friend, or go out if you stay vacation. You want this bag, you want to secure the bag for those things. But these people are not here to help you secure the bag only. They're here in this interview because they want to know how can you help them as the company secure their own bag. So you need to keep that in mind. So, all right, now you research the company, you assess yourself, you know where you have to offer the company, you know about your skill sets. Paris talked about that length, about having the skills, the competencies that you have, the education, all of that. So you know the skills that you have. Don't know why it is not going next, but let me escape again. So now it's the day of the interview and it's time for you to go in. As you realize, you're seeing two different kind of dress. One looks more formal, the other one looks more probably business casual or semi-formal. And let me use the word business, not formal. One looks more business attire, full-blown business attire, and the other one looks more business casual. Now, the reason why I said styles and times are changing is because as a young person, it's very important for me to tell you this, is that once upon a time, we used to always say the skirt must be below the knee, you need to wear your stockings, your shoes not be too high if you got an interview, and the boys them here need to be cut. And I would say forget that to an extent. Reason being, it comes back to the point of research. You need to research to see the culture of the company that you're applying to, what their standards are like, what is their work environment like, so that you can ensure that when it's time for you to go to the interview, that unless they say to you, listen, we have this very specific dress code that we want you to how would you say, to honor when you come into the interview. But aside from that, if it is a case where they're asking you to dress according to how the environment is, then you definitely want to look at what the work culture is like. Now, you're finding more and more jobs that are in, we call them co-work environments, where it's different companies on the same floor, people just utilizing small spaces. You're finding persons taking on remote jobs, online jobs. You may find yourself in a very youthful work environment where they're not going to ask you to wear a jacket and tie or a suit and tie to come in. In fact, if you apply to a job that is very relaxed, and they wear slacks and they wear like what the guy have on right there in this, or what even the young lady has on in the photo to the right, and you go there in your Oxford button up, right? That could actually be a turn off to them, because they will realize that, listen, you didn't even take the time to research our company to see that that's not our culture here. My mentor, one of my mentors is a businessman, the CEO for a company here in Kingston. And when I see when he's going to work, he doesn't wear a jacket unless it's like really important meetings, and they have a no tie policy at their company. And all the guys wears these very interesting socks to work. And in fact, this year, since 2020, he stopped wearing work shoes. He mostly wear like I don't know what you call those, like Vans. They have a little work look, but you can't say it's not really a full work shoes. And that is their work culture. And that's how they go to meetings. That's how the people that they take on have to dress as well. And so you may think that those things are not important, but they are. And my point here as well is your smile is your greatest asset. No matter how you dress well to this interview, whether it be as a formal business attire, or you be in the more dressed down kind of look, whatever it is that you wear, you must ensure that you also bring a smile to the interview as well. I have never done an interview for a job as in to hire people, but I have definitely done that for social impact work that I've done, where I would have taken on different members of the team, and being an executive member, a senior executive member, they would have asked me to host the interview as a part of the panel. And anybody that come on my interview with them face makeup, me already I score them down. It's hard to look beyond the face, right? Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's hard to look beyond that grouchy, grumpy look to say, all right, then this person is very qualified. Because in most cases, especially now in the 21st century, everybody qualified. Everybody and their mother qualified. Everybody is doing a wealth of different things. They have a bag of degrees. They were so involved. They have the links or the networking, as was said earlier. but what sets you apart? Sometimes it's really your smile, and not just a smile, but in the sense of the enthusiasm that you bring and the warmth and the sense of camaraderie. Nobody's saying you should go to the interview and act like them are your best friend. No, you have to be professional and you have to balance it out. But your personality must also shine through. And I think that's why I've been able to be so successful in terms of getting some certain kind of roles, both as a social impact volunteer and humanitarian, as well as in my professional sense, because when I go to the interview, I bring my personality, and I also ensure that I tell them what I have to offer them and what is that why, you know, I should be, well, it comes to the point right here, the interview and the popular questions, what sets me apart for the job. Now, I saw the popular questions. So tell us about yourself, strengths and weaknesses already. Now I move to the point of goals and aspirations. This is very important, ladies and gentlemen, because in the job space, one of the most popular questions as well, apart from the other ones that I mentioned earlier, is where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now, let me tell you something. This question can be a trick question. Sometimes we like to go off on a limb and talk about, you know, I see myself having my own home. I see myself finishing off my degree. I see myself as a mother to a child by then. May have the house and the picket fence and the 2 big dogs. Nobody cares. You know, in some cases, people, the hiring managers don't really care about your life and what you really want to achieve. What they really want to know is how are you going to build my company and my organization to a particular point within those years. So you may not really see yourself being at a job for 5 years. Sometimes we apply for jobs because they're stepping stones. I'm doing my internship at will be doing my internship at one of the UN multi-country offices. Of course, I'm already thinking about, you know, Christina, can I accelerate or move from being an intern into becoming a programs associate or very soon a senior member eventually on the team. So I've already started thinking about the next 5 years. But in that interview, when they asked me that question, I need to ensure that when I talk about the next 5 years of my life or where I see myself in the next 2 years or whatever, I'm also talking about how I will be able to boost and build the company within those few years. So think about that as well. What do you see yourself contributing to the company? Even if you only see yourself staying there for 1 year, think of when they ask about the 5 years question or whatever years, try to insert where you see yourself in the company, as well as how you plan to impact the company within that time frame. Why should you get this job? This question is also one of the most frequently asked questions. And it's very important that the assessment that I spoke about earlier, where you assess yourself, look yourself in the mirror and say, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, that exercise would have been done and you are very clear on what sets you apart. It's very important that you know how to quantify and to qualify your accomplishments. A lot of us on this call, I'm sure, are very involved. We do a bag of club when we're at high school and a bag more when we go university. And so we have all of these things to say. You know, I was youth parliamentarian, I was youth advisor, I was youth ambassador, a bag of things. But nobody cares either, because I'm sure the other person after you that's gonna come have a bag of clubs, maybe even more. What you need to do, you need to qualify and quantify. It starts from the process of the resume that Paris talked about, but you also need to do it in the interview as well. So when you say, why should you get this job? You can say, well, I get this job because I think I would be a good addition to your team because I'm a very effective salesperson. But that's not enough. Everybody can say that. I'm a very effective salesperson because at my former job, I was able to generate 100% increase in income sales, right? Or if you're applying for a social media management job, you may say I would have increased the viewership on the platforms by 4,000. We were at 10,000 by the time I completed the first quarter of my role as social media manager. I had 4,000 additional viewers or followers or whatever you want to call it on the platform. So that is how you help to set yourself apart. You're not just saying, oh, I am talented, I am experienced, I am qualified, I am competent. Nobody cares about those words. What they want to see is how you qualify and quantify it. So you need to have numbers, how many people were impacted with the particular role that you had before. as well as, how would you say, no, the type of value add that you would have given, let it be as descriptive as possible. So there's no question in their mind that the reason why you deserve this job is because you're able to fulfill or to accomplish this particular and specific thing. Then we move to the next question now, which is very important. How you know what in the bag? You know, people always talk about they're not taking a monkey, they're not taking a monkey in a bag, right? I know, so as young people, we have expenses. There are probably a few of you on the call right now who have student loans, that you know that when you come to the time to get a job, you don't want a flan job. You don't want a job where I give $60,000 a month. You want a job where I give at least 120K. That's something I've heard from my peers. They don't want a job where less than 120 because they have all these expenses. If you're living in Kingston, renting in Kingston is very expensive. Plus you have to pay for light, water, internet, and you want to pay for on-time taxi because sometimes taxi is safe at nighttime. Plus you want to buy food at sovereign, etc., etc. So you want to have a good value for money type of engagement. And the question will be asked, you know, Christina, how you ask about the money part now? And there are two ways. We call it the old method and the new method. Now, the old method is usually done this way, where your forefathers, and I'm using the term forefathers in a cheeky way, your forefathers used to wait till when the interviewers asked about the money part. Persons don't like to ask right away about it. And so they wait until the employer will ask you, say, you know, how much do you expect to earn from this? How much do you like to earn from this? The new method is for you to insert that question or to suggest or to bring it up in a way. You can decide how you want to do it, but let me give you some tips on that. If you're doing a multi-interview process where let's say now, you have to go through 3 stages. One, you may get a phone interview first. The second one may be a video interview, and then the third one may be an in-person panel, like what you see the guy in the slide at. And so you may decide, you know what, because I'm multi-interview process, I'm going to wait until the second interview. And how it's normally suggested is that when they give you the call after the first interview, when they say, you know, you did very well at the phone interview, we're going to invite you, to a video interview. So they'll call to say, you know, you have made the second round. This is where you may say to them, is this on an appropriate time? Or are you the appropriate person where I could begin a discussion, initiate a discussion around salary or salary range? That's how you can do it. You're not demanding it. You're saying when you're asking, are you the appropriate person or is it on an appropriate time? If they say to you, well, we would love to bring that up at the next interview, then fine, you get ready for that, right? Or you may say, okay, they may give you the answer right away. Always, and as you tell me, I have 5 minutes left, and this is the last part of it because it's a very important part. Always ensure that you research the range of the job that you're doing, the salary range. Guys, the nobody putting up on our young people, we are young people, and sometimes these people will exploit us, our youth, and they will exploit us and don't pay us what we deserve. So research around it. What is the salary range? So if you research and you find out, say, for this particular job, most times you make on average between 100K and 250K. You know what the range is. So when you go in, you will say to them, and you show them, say, your research and you're bright enough. You say to them, listen, when they say to you, what they expect to earn, don't just say to them, they expect to earn 100K, because sometimes they may have been willing to give you more or even less. So you say to them, based on my research, the competitive individuals within this industry, on average, tend to charge between $150,000 to $250,000. And because I know that your company is very, what word do I use now? Your company is very enthusiastic about investing in your employees. I know that you will offer something that is competitive. So you already have set them up right there, so because you said them to listen. Your company are going to invest in them employees. So you already tell them, listen, I know that this is the range. So them can't put no wool over your eyes to tell us that them not going to pay you what you deserve. And you also need to know what you deserve, what your skills are like. Because if somebody look at you and tell us, well, because you just come from UA, you just come from UTech or NCU, you just give us 65K. Hello, you see the managing director of NYPJ, UTC, I make how much money? And don't have no degree, I have high school diploma, not to get into that because it's election time. I don't want to offend nobody, but you have to know what your skill sets are. You have to know what you deserve, what you're worth. So when them say to you, say, just because you come from UE, or you take our MCU or maritime, they might just give 65K when you may not have had been in a formal position, but you would have had all this work experience through being probably, you know, your summer jobs, plus you have your degree. You can't 65K, you want 120K or more because that is the salary range. So that is how you'd also go about talking about the hard question of what is in the bag, asking about salaries. And I think the final slide is next. Not sure why my screen is not escaping, but right, and that's the last slide. Your interview never ends. When you finish your interview and you have been successful, well, finish your interview and when you go home, always ensure you send a thank you. Unless it's a case, even when you may even be, even if you're even told in the job in the interview right away that listen, you're unsuccessful, because some people may do that. They may say, well, you're not what we're looking for at this time. When you go home, even though it may burn you and you want to bite your tongue, send a thank you, because sometimes you don't know what that thank you may mean. People may consider you later on to say, you know, this person was a lot of gratitude. They were very gracious, even in the face of defeat and not getting a job. And even if you weren't told that you're not successful, they said, you know, we'll call you back in 2 weeks. Send a thank you, because you may be the only one who sent the thank you, and you may actually stand out because of that thank you. Because they look at the email and say, well, you probably not the most qualifications, you know, but you look like say is a people person, and then probably, you know, will go to an extra way. Because if I say you go home and send a thank you, it shows that your willingness to take on initiative. So always send a thank you. And when you get the job and you go into the job, don't become complacent, because young people, we don't just want to be when I call it entry level for all our life. We want to turn CEO, want to turn manager, we want on director, or you may even want to go on to start your own thing, but you want the experience within this space. So the interview never ends, and you must always keep on proving your best self and succeeding in your job. Thank you so much, everyone. And now the floor is open for questions, if any.
Okay, guys, so if it is that you guys have any questions, I'm asking you guys to please direct them in the chat. However, before I move on, I just want to apologize on behalf of Sandre. He had to attend to something very important. So my apologies on his behalf. But I'm seeing here where there are some questions in the chat. Let me just head over and read them. Christina, so there are some questions. For multi-round interviews, how differently do you prepare for each round? Are they going to ask the same types of questions at each round?
All right, yes, thank you so much, Marlene. That's a very good question, Savina. Thank you for that question, Savina. So multi-round interviews are not, most times, they get intense, more intense as you go through the rounds. It's very rare to find a 3-round interview, because nowadays people don't have time to go through 3 rounds with you. The only time they may do that is if they find where the persons who are applying for the job are really competitive, and it's very hard for them to decide. And that's already will tell you that, listen, you have to put your A game, because the fact that I'm do 3 rounds means say everybody that's applying for the job, everybody who's left in the pool are really good. So it's normally more like 2 rounds where you get a phone interview, and the next one is they call you in to say, okay, you're coming for either a Zoom interview because it's not COVID, or it may be in person. So how you prepare differently, I would say not necessarily prepare differently, prepare all the questions, have the full research, because you may be so interesting in the first round that them ask you all the hard questions them in the first round. They may not even wait. Maybe you find yourself waited all the hard questions in the first one, and the second one they start to ask you about your personality, because they want to feel you out now as a person. You're proving the full interview that you are very good at what you do. You have all the experience, you have all the credentials, but in the second interview, they may want to feel you out, ask you about your hobbies and your interests, and, you know, more, I would say extracurricular, quote unquote, type of things. So prepare for everything from the beginning, because you do not know how they will phrase, or I would say structure, the interviews.
Okay, so there's another, thank you for that. There's another question here from Asha. Do you have any tips for group interviews?
This a 1 year, may I tell you, the 1 year hard. Okay, so group interviews are never my favorite type because it your nerves upon edge because you literally see who you're competing against and you're seeing. By the way, when you say group interviews, are you talking about having a group panel of interviewers? Or are you talking about everybody who's being interviewed is in there at the same time? Let me ask that. Which one is it, Asha?
Well, honestly, I was talking about when you have the group of people applying, but actually, if you have tips for both, that would be nice as well.
Okay, all right. So let me start off with the one where the group of people applying. So I would say that stick to the script in the sense that go in and be aware of who you are. I talked about assessment before self-assessment, about who you are and what value you add, because you can't go in the license, Asha. That's the truth. So if you go in there and say the person say, I'm from Harvard, I went to Harvard University, you take a go, you take a go. You can't go and go tell lies, say, oh, you know, I went to MIT, right? Because the person's to Harvard. But what you could say is that I went to UTech and I think where my school is prepared me perfectly for this job because UTech is a hands-on university. It gave me an internship where I was working at this particular company. I got this particular experience. I was able to do this particular thing while I was in the internship, and that is why I think that my experience and my school has prepared me adequately for the job. So this person come with them Harvard, yeah, maybe Harvard, but if they don't know if you sell Harvard, they're not gonna cheat you out of anything. So you have to know, again, ladies and gentlemen, what your skill sets are, what you have to offer, and be very secure in that. And quickly to the next side of things, when you have a group panel, always try to Google before you go in the top executives for the firm. Try to know, because more than likely, if you're having a group panel, they're going to have more than one of those executives in it. And also try to stalk them in a way where you find out about them in a personal way, because sometimes when you go into the interview, there'll be maybe silences and awkwardness, and you're able to kind of insert information that would, I would say, relate to them in a personal sense. So you want to have an idea of who may be interviewing you. And even if you don't, still have an idea of who the executives are for the company. And when you go into the interview now, try to find, I would say, to find a rabbit of the group. We call it rabbit because you need to find a friendly face, right? There's always at least one person in the, you have good cop, bad cop. You always have at least one person in there that have a pleasant face. Sometimes you have to kind of zone in that person and to feed energy off of them, because if you stay in the room and you focus on, oh my God, there's 7 of them are asking me the questions, you're gonna feel overwhelmed and you may start to, I would say, not perform at your optimum. So those are some advice I would give. And use eye contact, ladies and gentlemen, please. Look away, of course, but as much as possible, give eye contact, because you show as well your confidence and that you're not gonna hide. All right, so that's very important.
Okay, thank you so much, Christina, for that answer. And thank you for coming here, and taking the initiative to present here to, our attendees and informing us on how to ace our master and an interview. I'm pretty sure many of us, learned a lot from the interview and got some tips in which we could, relate to when we go to interview. So thank you so much again for coming and presenting to us today.
Thank you so much, Marlene. All right.
No problem. All right, so guys, I'm not sure if you guys are seeing a poll on the system now, but indicate to me in the chat if you guys are seeing the poll. And I'm encouraging each and every one of you to fill out that poll. It is very much important that you do. And so I am asking you guys to ensure that you fill it out and do not skip the poll. So yes, guys, ensure that you fill out the polls, and let's go back to the tweeting. Chev, could you pull up the tweets for me, please? Siobhan? Okay, guys, please indicate to me if you're seeing the poll in the chat or just a raise hand feature. Is somebody speaking? I believe somebody's mic is on. Okay, so what I'll be doing now, throughout the program, we would have asked you guys For those of you who mics aren't muted, I'd love if you could just mute your mics now so I could proceed.
Just came up.
Okay, thank you. Right, so earlier on in the program and throughout the program, we would have been encouraging you, well, Sandra would have been encouraging you to, tweet using the hashtag helping youth overcome. And there are some tweets here. What I will be doing, and he would have informed you guys that we would have, prize in store. So I'm going to select two of the favorite posts, well, two that I found, interesting, and I'll be giving a credit giveaway. So I'm going to go ahead now and choose two persons. Chev, could you just scroll back up for me? Is that the top of it? All right, stay right there. I'm seeing Dana Atkinson here, and she would have tweeted. Chev, could you just scroll back down a little so I could see that one? Right, Dana Atkinson, she would have tweeted, I love how these presentations are concise and informative, helping youth overcome, hashtag helping youth overcome. Thank you so much, Dana, for tweeting. And I'm just going to ask you now to indicate to me in the chat privately if you are using a Lime or digital phone, and send me your contact so that the credit can be sent to you. Could you just go back up to me? No, go back up for me now, Chev. So remember, Dana, please message me privately in the chat with your contact and whether you are Lime or Flu. And I'm seeing where Shade Hines would have tweeted very informative session by the at National Youth Parliament JA, hashtag helping youth overcome. Also, Shade, I'm encouraging you to go over to the chat also and message me privately, send me your contact so I can send you the credit and indicate whether you are using Lime or Flu. Thank you so much for tweeting and sharing your review on the session so far. Chev, you can pull that down. Again, guys, I'm going to encourage you guys to go and ensure that you sign up the poll. Do not leave the seminar without signing up. Thank you. So we're basically wrapping up now, and we would have seen where we had very, very informative, and majority of the presentations were concise, and I'm pretty sure many of you got, learned a lot and got some takeaways that you could actually take away and apply to your personal and professional life in going forward. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending today. Thank you so much for making the time and, signing up and coming here and being a part of such an informative and, extraordinary session today. Thanks to the presenters who would have presented. And as again, I'm going to remind you guys to just ensure that you sign up the poll. How do you message privately? So you go to the message option, the bottom, and where you see send to everyone, you're going to click that and then search for my name. And you go ahead and message. Right, so thank you again, everyone, for coming. And I'm encouraging you guys to ensure, if you haven't signed up as yet, to go again and sign up using the link in our bio at National Youth Parliament JA for our Instagram page, and ensure that you sign up for the upcoming seminars that we have planned for you. I'm seeing a raise a hand feature here. Am I correct? Dana, Patterson, and Spencer. So Dana, you can just go ahead and speak.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Dana.
You're saying I should speak, as in tell you what?
You had your hand raised. I was wondering if you had something to say.
Oh, no, I was just trying to figure out how to. I couldn't find your name, so I was wondering if I should message National Youth Parliament.
Well, you can, or you can message me. Either of them works.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Right. Also, I'm seeing where Spencer hand was or is raised. No, it's gone. So I'm guessing that you no longer have anything to say. All right. So Dana, remember to send that, and Once again, guys, thank you so much for coming out. And I'm encouraging you guys again to go up and sign up for the seminar series using the link in our Instagram page at National Youth Parliament JA. And remember to sign up the code before you leave. Thank you so much to everyone for coming out. Have a good rest of the day.